Alright, 50-50 shot this transition works. Usually it works. And it worked this time. Alrighty.
Alright.
Alright, starting simple. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Cammy. I have a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/CammyCakes. I mainly play Destiny 2 and PSO2. My comfort games are fighting games and a couple others that I'm not really going to go into too much, but mainly Destiny 2, PSO2.
Alright. Solid, quick, fast introduction. Honestly, I've had people ramble on and on, and the fastest one I've had was someone coming on and saying, hello, I am this and that, I'm a fucking idiot, and that was about it. Anyhow. Do have to ask, so why exactly the cake and why the beard?
Alright, I can tell you about the cake. This one takes me back to high school. I used to be a cheerleader. I was the only male cheerleader on the squad, and the girls called me CammyCakes, and I was like, alright, cool, this is a good enough gamer tag for me. I thought it was a non-threatening moniker. Like, no one in a lobby is gonna be like, oh no, it's CammyCakes. Like, right? But eventually that happened. My worst fears realized.
I see.
Now I get hard targeted when I'm in a lobby. They're like, oh no, we gotta focus up, tilt the chair forward. I'm like, but what if I'm not trying? Okay, the beard was... In cheerleading, you're not allowed to grow a beard, so as soon as I stopped being a cheerleader, I just grew a beard, and I guess my girlfriend at the time liked it, so I kept it. Then my family liked it, so I kept it. And my friends liked it, so I kept it.
Alright, fair enough. Good beard.
It's definitely come a long way since the COVID days.
No, I know that kind of feeling. So before COVID, I didn't bother growing out my hair. Once COVID hit, I was like, you know what? I have probably a year in isolation. Let's try grow this shit out. These days, most of my customers just know me as the ponytail dealer. So yeah, that's fun. Anyhow. What got you started with content creation?
So if you play video games with a friend group, there's always going to be maybe a friend that's more in tune with the game and one that's brand new to the game. The goal with that content creation early for me was to get that player who was struggling up to the level of the person who was in tune with the game. So make guides and teach in a way that is easily understood. That was my first content creation. From there, I shifted into having these folders full of clips in the Battlefield series that were just like 1 in a million clips. And I'm like, no one's posting these type of things. So I just put a montage together, mixed some of those 1 in a million clips with just some funny clips, and it did well for me. Eventually took that montaging into Destiny 1 and got some traction off of those montages. Went back to educational content and then went into live commentary, because back in the day I used to watch a lot of RuneScape live commentary, and that helped me so much to understand the game. So makes sense that in Destiny 2 that was my jumping off point. People really liked live commentary and being able to convey what you're thinking in PvP, because it helps them almost more than a formal lesson on something. Just seeing an in the moment split decision and how you convey it helps so much more.
Yeah, because if there's one thing I find when it comes to player agency, so what they can do at a given moment, in a PvP game or any kind of FPS, there are a lot of players that are completely lost in what they should be doing at any given moment. So hearing that live commentary, each of those decisions made on the spot, very, very useful.
It's gotten kind of more intense over the years, because every time I learn a new build, play with a different teammate, I get more well-versed at the game and can commentate it better. So now people kind of click on my video because they want to see, like, they stepped into a time machine, got good at a build, and they want to see what the build can do and if it's worth their time to go acquire. So in a way, I'm almost like saving somebody time for clicking on a video.
Oh, yeah.
Will I find this fun if I get good at it? Let's see what Cam can do. Oh, this does look fun. I think I want to invest that time now.
Yeah, I think probably the most disgusting video I saw of yours, apart from the illegal Destiny clips, was probably any that involved a bow and a trace rifle.
I wish traces were better with the AE system. That's what makes me not use them as much.
Fair enough. Because when I saw what they were capable of with a bow, I was like, oh god, okay. It's going
Primaries
from,
have gotten a lot deadlier over time too.
Yeah.
Like SMGs kind of chew up trace rifles, even though traces are supposed to beat that type of thing. It's just really difficult to make trace rifles work these days. Besides Aegers, Aegir is one of my favorite weapons in the game.
Okay,
It lets you sacrifice some of your super energy to ramp up the trace rifle into like a chaos reach beam that freezes people.
Honestly, Aegir
so that is something the game was always missing, because sometimes class has a terrible super, and Aegis is a way to fix it.
Aegis was probably, let's see, it was the exotic I actually slept on the most, actually. It's one that I didn't actually pick up. Huh. Yeah, I might as well give it a shot at some point. Like, I saw what it was capable of, but yeah.
You used to use Aegir with invisibility, but then they nerfed invisibility at one point and then changed all the classes around with the 3.0. So me revisiting trace rifles might be a bit. I can think of a couple builds that could work, but right now they're just out of fashion with competitive builds.
Yeah, fair enough. And inside of like casual kind of 6v6 kind of thing, I think one of the more fun things I've done is just, yes, everyone else is a cat, follow the laser pointer. Pulls out a divinity, have fun.
Oh yeah, don't say divinity in the Destiny community right now.
What's wrong with divinity? It's
a
not...
casual versus hardcore debate on like, is divinity making the skill floor too accessible?
Bruh, like the thing was, like, last night, I went into King's Fall for the first time because I'd never done it in Destiny 1. Got dragged through, kicking and screaming because I'm god awful at platforming. Got to the final one. They're like, okay, who wants to be a div bitch? I just put my hand up immediately. I'm not at light level. Sure, give me the fucking div. The job was way too easy.
That makes sense. It's the same debuff no matter what level you are, so you might as well always put that on the lowest power.
Yeah. The job was ridiculously easy. I'm pretty sure it made the fight a lot easier than it was probably supposed to be, but you know what? I'm fine with the raid taking 3 hours and not taking 6.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Alright, but yeah, pedaling back onto content creation. So what does content creation mean to you, in which case? A lot of people I've asked this take it as like a philosophical question. How do you see it?
I'm gonna continue content creation until it doesn't work. This is my creative outlet, so that's what it means to me. And if other people enjoy it, that's great. And if they don't, that's also great. I do this for me at this point.
Okay.
Twitch streaming is more of a way I can thank my audience directly for checking out my content. That's about it. YouTube, make something I'm interested in, show genuine passion for it, show creativity. Twitch, thank people, and then that's where the process for a new idea is created. Sometimes I go 6 hours, pretty uneventful stream. Other times it's the most action-packed hour you've ever seen. Just depends on inspiration. So
let's see, I've seen you, farming one dungeon for like a shotgun for like 6 hours at some point.
Oh yeah, I've had 18-hour streams of just the same activity in a row, because I know if I put 18 hours on the day when it's the fastest possible farm for it, then later I don't have to put in those same 18 hours. Destiny is pretty brutal when it comes to RNG.
Oh yeah.
Some people could play for hundreds of hours and just never get the thing they want.
I will say, I work at a casino. I've seen what terrible RNG looks like and what it does to a person. Destiny, oh god.
If I wasn't a content creator, I would not put in those major grinds. I would just kind of have a probable number in my head for my favorite builds and be like, if it's not this exact perk set that is maybe 3 out of 5 perks or something like that, the bare minimum to make the build work, then I'm just not going for it. But as a content creator, if it makes a build funnier for a video, I'll spend a couple hours to try to make it happen.
Like for me, it went from getting a 5 out of 5 hand cannon to getting a 3 out of 5 so long as both the perks were exactly what I needed. And the only
over time, I learned more of what I like and dislike in Destiny, so my farming's got a lot better, because I will just instantly delete most fusion rifles and sidearms because I'm not interested in them.
Fair enough. Good god. Main ingredient was a time. Anyhow. So, why the specific choice of games? Why specifically Destiny 2, PSO2? Why those two?
I started on Phantasy Star Online way back in the day, back when it was on the GameCube. And
So
I
classic.
really enjoyed the world that it created. The gameplay loop of going to each planet, acquiring loot, using that loot to defeat a boss, upgrading your character, playing with the team, combining abilities. Almost sounds like I'm describing Destiny. Well, at the time when I was playing PSO, I also played Halo, which was Bungie's first-person shooter online on the console. So similarly, PSO was online, Halo was online. Destiny 2 is a game that seemed to combine both of them, so it's no surprise that that's where I popped off in content creation.
Fair enough. Because yeah, the idea of bringing in like your PvE equipment into PvP is definitely more of an MMO related thing. But finding that you can do that and craft very specific builds and very weird builds out there, yeah, that's probably what settled it for me for Destiny, honestly. Yeah. Good stuff. Fair enough.
I would say RuneScape turned me into the min-maxer, and like having a plan in motion that could take thousands of hours to complete. And then applying that to Destiny later, it's just so satisfying to finally finish.
RuneScape, my main experience was sitting at a fishing pier and shitposting while caging lobsters for like hours on end.
That is the best experience for RuneScape for sure. The social part.
Yeah.
That's what I wish Destiny 2 had more of, more social spaces that were actually social. Not just you can see other players, but interact with them.
The tower often feels a little empty most of the time.
I miss in-game chat. Back in the Blizzard client, you used to be able to chat with other players.
Oh, but I thought
so that did create a sense of community on PC that we just don't have. I mean, yes, there was hate mail thrown around, but there were also compliments and friendships made from just being able to immediately talk to somebody.
Fair enough. I think the one thing I find with Destiny that puts me off is when it comes to endgame activities, unless you find a group to do them, it's a bit rough. Like, you can go through LFG.
I have been using the LFG on the Bungie website. I will say 99% of my teams on there have been perfectly okay. They're what I expected. The other 1% of the time, I got booted on my alt account.
Oh.
Despite having everything they asked for.
Oh boy.
I don't know why they booted me, but I guess they had a friend wanting to join. And it wasn't that far into the activity, so I wasn't that mad about it, but I did add him to the block list, and I have yet to find him on that alt account. But when I do, I'm going to send him back to the reef.
Oh god. Okay, so the worst experience I've had with LFG, by far, is the first time I ever used it, which is what put me off of it, because I was like, I like DSC. I like my Deepstone Crypt runs. I want to get my posterity, because I still haven't gotten that yet, and I'm a hand cannon fanatic. Alright. Let's see. Alright, usual team's not available. Okay, let's go on LFG. Okay, this team looks fine. I go in, they take about 4 hours on the first encounter.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to give some tips for LFG then. First of all, I'm in a privileged state as a content creator where I can always reach out to a Twitch chat of people who are watching my content are probably enthusiasts and can do the content. Let's forget that happens and I don't have access to that. Sometimes I play offline and I strictly use LFG. When I use LFG, I am so upfront with my expectations and what I can offer to the team. I'm not going to say I'm there for 4 hours until it's done. I'm going to say I have 1 hour to get this done. I have watched a Dado guide, but I'm a little shaky on this part. Does anybody know that type of thing? And sometimes you're not looking for the completion. You're looking to find one other player on your wavelength that you can add to your friends list. And over time, you keep doing that and keep doing that until you have a group of go-tos or maybe some sort of content creator Discord or LFG Discord where you can take the 3 or 4 people you verified that are on the same wavelength and then use LFG to fill in the other 2 spots.
Fair enough.
That's where I think LFG you find the most success. The other perspective is I'm going into this activity with the intent of carrying 5 other people. That's the other one.
With the intent of carrying 5
And in some of the Destiny raids and some of the activities, you really can solo some of the content and just drag 5 people along.
Oh god, because let's see. So each of my first raid experiences, I've either been the only person that's new to the raid, or one of 3 people that is new to the raid. The ones where it was 3 people was a time, so to speak. I pretty much put it as every time we wiped, I would take a sip at a drink, whether it be like a random cocktail or just whatever I have lying on my desk.
Mm-hmm.
By the final encounter for most of those, at least the first time round, I don't remember them. Because I was getting close to blackout drunk.
Firm of what you can offer and tempering expectations. And if you're going into a raid where somebody is going to Sherpa you, or you're new to a raid, that is where you really temper your expectations. It might even be fair to say it's on you to look up a guide unless you're deliberately going in blind. Just because I really feel like watching a guide saves so much time that it's worth it before even starting LFG.
Yeah, because when I went through Garden and Vow, that was like wipe counter at about 30, me almost dying on my keyboard. So yeah, that was a time. DSC, we cleared in like 2 hours, flat, like not even.
Oh, very nice.
It was like an hour and a half, maybe. This was a very experienced like day 1 raiding team that was dragging me along. And then for, let's see, King's Fall was yesterday. That was 3 hours, 3 Sherpas. That was fine. Honestly, like, that was alright. I think the worst part about that was just the platforming, and that was it. But yeah. LFG experience. Let's see. In personal experience, I think the best LFG experience I've had is probably doing FF14 raid content, rather. Because in that, let's see, at least...
I bet they have a better infrastructure for LFG.
You have a party
Bungie
finder.
knows it's lacking in Destiny. Yeah, they're trying to fix that in Lightfall.
Yeah, you have a party finder in-game that you can use. You pretty much join, let them know your expectations, blah, blah, blah. They'll let you know what you need. And then you can go ahead and try the encounter. If you flub the encounter twice, then normally they'll boot you. That's about the golden rule, at least if you're playing on the Japanese servers. Because they're very... How does one put it? So, do you know the underlying design of PSO2 where everyone is just a DPS? Or everything is just catered towards doing more DPS?
Yes.
It's a very Japanese mindset of don't bother other people. Or don't inconvenience other people, essentially. So that's the same mindset they had in FF14. Don't make things harder for other people. So,
yeah, I wish that was the more unspoken culture thing in Bungie Destiny LFG, but I find I have to teach a lot when I LFG, but I'm prepared for that.
Fair enough.
It's just me personally, if I'm going to go into LFG not knowing something, I'm probably going to watch a guide first, because the guide's going to be faster than having somebody in the activity teach me.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I mean, let's say, I think I had like Golgoroth explained for like 15-20 minutes and we still flubbed the encounter like 3 times. Even when we went for that.
If I have 5 competent players and 1 person who has never seen the encounter, I would usually teach it to them on the fly while assigning them a less important, impactful job so that they can kind of learn by doing it as they do and we get it done. And then the second time we run it, they're a pro. Yeah, that's the only exception, is if you have 5 people who can essentially just 5-man the raid and bring an extra 6 along. You're getting your 6 competent while you're clearing.
Because yeah, when it came to Golgoroth, we had 3 Sherpers, 3 newbies. 2 of the newbies, so myself and 1 other fellow, were just shoved on tanking, and oh god, it was a time. It was just like, oh okay, yeah, grab his gaze, now rotate like a clock. Wait, what? Yeah, just go behind the party, another guy goes to the other side. Oh, okay. It took us about 3 or 4 tries, and then we were like, oh, that's how this works. Okay, got it.
I kind of wish raiding didn't have to involve other people, because I kind of just want to inconvenience myself if I want to take the challenge, you know? But when other people are involved, I tilt the chair forward to get it done. Because an inevitable part of master content and raids is sometimes the bottleneck is just 1 player learning the rotation. Like to the specific amount of damage they need to get a finisher on a champion to create ammo, which makes everyone else's job easier. So it's like you're kind of just waiting in raid purgatory until 1 person learns the rotation. Then after that, it's clockwork. But for those 40 minutes while they're learning, the other 5 players have to constantly do the same thing over and over and over again.
Okay.
So if it was solo content, I'm not inconveniencing anybody by taking 40 minutes to learn my role.
Fair enough. So for Vow of the Disciple, for example, take a guess which encounter had the worst experience in terms of learning.
Are you talking day 1 or just in general?
Just in general.
Worst learning.
What do you think would cause the most wipes for a party doing it for the first time?
Definitely going to be the one with the 3 relics. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, it's that one.
I'm sure your chat would know.
Yeah, when we went into that particular
Not called the
encounter.
Gauntlet, that was the old raid.
Yeah, it's not Gauntlet, not Queen's Walk, it's something else. But yeah, it was absolute hell, mainly because when we went through, free Sherpas, free newbies, once again, it was just like, so everyone has to take a relic at least once. Good luck. Yeah, we were...
So it turns out there's a lot of ways to finesse that encounter now.
Yeah, so
and
I've heard.
The 3-man strat is also the LFG strat because it's so safe. So you essentially make 3 people do it, and it doesn't even matter if the other 3 don't know. And then there's a written route that, depending on where the first blight is, you just tell the relics where to go and when to drop. So as long as one person knows what they're doing, they can direct people as you go in that encounter. Like, that's how much solved it's gotten since day 1.
Because I did
it day 1, it was chaos strat. Everybody just do what has to be done. We brute forced it. We just said we're gonna out damage everything so much that it doesn't even matter if our timing's bad.
Christ.
Exhibition is the name of the encounter.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Because I did that week 1, end of week 1, and we were still all just struggling, being like, what is going on here? Oh god.
I used the fast movement stuff, so even if I was on the wrong side of the map, I could kill everything quick enough and move fast enough that it didn't matter if I was on the wrong side.
Oh.
So that's what I say by brute force.
Yeah, that would do it. Anyhow, speaking of which, what do you find is the appeal of achieving mastery in any given game? If not, what exactly does it take to, say, achieve mastery, would you say?
It depends on if you mean the whole game, every accolade, completionist, achievement hunter type of thing for mastery, or more of a creativity sense of the word, as in, could you do everything that's possible in a game, not just the achievements?
Let's go the creativity route.
Okay, the one example I like to give of this is the trip mine grenade in Destiny.
Oh,
and just
God.
The buffs and nerfs and things that have changed about it over time. So in Destiny 1, it used to be able to stick to other players and instantly killed somebody. So that's what the meta called for. The most effective way to use the trip mine is just to go for a stick.
All right.
Because it's going to one-hit. So you kind of just panic throw it at somebody. Bungie thought it was too hot. They nerfed it. Now it doesn't stick to players anymore. So we needed a new way to get all that damage off at the same time. So we started throwing the trip mine at people's feet and then shooting it. Normally how that nade works is it attaches to a wall adjacent and waits for somebody to pass by it, has like a half-second delay before it detonates, and then it does most of their health. But by throwing it at the floor and shooting it, you skip that half-second detonation and it just instantly detonates. So that was the next best thing. Then we figured out you can animation cancel. By starting with a different weapon, throwing the trip mine, switching to your main weapon, you could shoot it even faster. So you kind of like combo somebody even, where you're shooting it instantly and then a follow-up shot instantly.
Oh god, okay. Fair enough.
So now next part of mastery is, wait, we don't have to shoot it off the floor, we can shoot it overhead. And that brings a very, very niche advantage of being able to splash damage around corners in angles that nobody expects. Is it a hard shot? Absolutely. But that to me is achieving mastery. It's being able to put something in your toolkit that you worked your ass off to do. And it allows for a lot more creative solutions in both PvP and PvE. I even shot a trip mine out of the air in PvE one time because like an ad jumped around the corner. And I'm like, wait, I can do this, and I don't have to go around the corner.
Okay,
It's more satisfying in PvP, don't get me wrong, but PvE has its own interactions like that too.
Yeah, like
you might see somebody like one hit a raid boss because they know the timing with shoulder charge and 1-2 punch. Like that's an example of mastery. Is that the highest ceiling ever? Probably not, but there are things like that in Destiny that exist, but the reward isn't one-shotting a raid boss. It's like 1% more damage. A lot of people aren't going to be grinding 100 hours for 1% more damage.
Oh, yeah. Because, alright, have you ever heard of the saying that it takes about 10,000 hours to reach mastery in any given task?
Absolutely. I have put my mastery hours into Destiny PvP, not just Destiny the game, into just queuing competitive PvP matches.
Wait, how many hours are you sitting on now?
I have played Destiny 2 or Destiny 1 since it came out and put some mad hours into the game. I didn't play as much PvE in Destiny 1, I just camped PvP.
Okay. Fair enough.
In Destiny 2, it's more like exactly 50-50. Mostly because as a content creator, I have to get the pieces of a build put together. That means go into PvE. And there is some mastery in PvE too. Speedrunning is what a lot of people would consider mastery.
Yeah. See, like,
but I'm not speedrunning the fastest time on a leaderboard. I'm speedrunning the fastest loot acquisition. There's a difference. There's some mental that goes into that too. A lot of people want to come in and backseat on my PvE streams, and I gotta tell them I've developed a strat that I've dumbed it down so much that I don't have to look at the game in front of me. I can focus fully on Twitch chat, and talking to Twitch chat about interesting things gets me through the grind, and suddenly I have the item I had. If I tilted the chair forward and went for like a speedrun leaderboard, I might not have the loot because I might be resetting to try to get a faster time. It might just be too taxing and I go to sleep earlier, that type of thing. So it's about finding that right mix of something that's low effort enough, but fast.
Okay. So the particular stream that I tuned in on one time that I was laughing my freaking ass off when it came to was your optimization of Gambit. Why?
Oh, yes.
Oh, God, why?
Yes. So I had this stint. I'm always chasing mastery in anything I do, but especially Destiny. There was a stint where I was just wanting some Gambit loot. I was tired of slow matches and I wanted to learn to play it properly. So I asked around to a Gambit Discord. I learned from people who were experts at Gambit, and then I asked some questions that maybe they hadn't considered at the time, and now I wanted to explore those questions in Gambit.
Okay.
Sort of take my own style or flavor to their approach. And I found a lot of success doing that. But then the Gambit game mode changed over time, got nerfed in a lot of regards, and now it's become this like amorphous blob of doesn't really please anybody these days.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
At the time, I would call Gambit / Melee of the Gambit iterations. Those who don't know, Smash Melee had a lot of weird combos and interactions and this like super high skill ceiling that nobody was really expecting. And that's what Gambit was for me. It had all this hidden tech that was just waiting for players to find out. And so while it wasn't popular in the English speaking side, it was really popular on the Asia side, on like Bilibili and in Korea, PC bongs and whatnot.
Oh God.
These gamers got their rotations down to the millisecond. In casual Gambit, a lot of players think that the invader role is the most influential, whereas in competitive Gambit, the invader's not even a role because you don't get to invade on certain maps.
Oh God.
The reasoning is the way that the spawn waiting is and the speed at which you can clear the ads creates a very predictable spawn location for the invader. And because you're already clearing ads as fast as possible, you can allot 1 or 2 players to set up a spawn kill. And so
I see.
If you have a really good Gambit team that hits that criteria, they reap or mob fast enough to clear enemies as fast as possible. They know spawn waiting and can get to where they need to go to set up the spawn kill. If they can do both of those things and then also instant kill the final boss, you now have a speedrun Gambit team. If you are missing even one of those elements, the next fastest thing is to throw matches because the reward doesn't care if you win or lose. It just needs to be done. So
Uh-huh.
as a shot caller in Gambit, if you're playing for loot, you need to be able to instantly identify whether or not you should tilt the chair forward to end a game fast or surrender to end a game fast. So that is how to loot farm in Gambit. It's not a pretty solution. It's not a competitively fair to my opponent solution, but it's in the game. I didn't create the system, and I would advocate for a much better system if I had keys to the kingdom. But it is getting loot the fastest, so I can't really blame the player.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. In which case, on the topic of Gambit, so do you think Gambit actually has any kind of future? Because it does have like the lowest player retention by far out of the three main playlists.
This is more of like Destiny as a whole macro type of question more than Gambit.
Okay.
They need to specialize sectors of the community for a specific audience rather than trying to build wide. They need to build up. There can still be something in Destiny 2 for everyone, but not everything in Destiny 2 needs to be for everyone. That's how Gambit could be solved. Or they could split Gambit again and have two different Gambits, a casual one and a competitive. I'm okay with that solution too, though that does come with some pros and cons.
Let's say, I mean, I heard in past there was Gambit and Gambit Prime, so,
There's a player culture thing too, where intrinsic players and extrinsic players are kind of at odds with each other, and I'm going to define that in a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Extrinsic player wants only the reward and not to chase mastery. They're not trying to min-max the loot acquisition like I just described.
Uh-huh.
An intrinsic player only plays because they enjoy getting better. They enjoy working towards mastery.
Okay.
So they will be in a competitive playlist regardless of if it has a reward, cosmetic, etc. So what Destiny 2 I think is missing is a place for the intrinsic players to not run into extrinsic players.
So some kind of ranked competitive playlist.
And I mean that across the whole game. Raids could have a difficulty modifier card that doesn't offer anything but just allows you to crank it up. Like back in the day, GoldenEye had this unlockable Dark Agent mode or something like that, where you could crank the health of all the enemies up to, I don't know, 200% or something, have them instant kill you type thing, and use that as a way to stress test builds. That's what I would be using that for. I have to finesse that exact same system at the early part of a season by putting on intentionally weak armor and then running into a nightfall or some sort of activity and seeing, can I kill a champion without activating any of the champion mechanics? Can I just brute force this amount of damage? And that's how I stress test a build.
Fair enough.
But I would love it if they had more creative systems like that for the intrinsic player.
Okay. Because like for a lot of MMOs out there, you have level scaling. Like usually, if you sync your level, you'll go down to what the encounter was intended for, or you'll be able to like reduce your level to a certain extent or nerf yourself specifically to test that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think in terms of intrinsics, I think the better place to look is probably PSO2, honestly.
And that is why I love that game.
Like,
but on the final Destiny part for that, as intrinsic, extrinsic, I'm more the intrinsic gamer, but I have to reach out to the extrinsic to put together some content. But there is some sort of crossover between all these builds I use where I feel like overall I become a better player. So it's worth it too.
All right. And the first time I ran into you was when you were like on RC's stream and whatnot, and the first bit of content I looked at after that was just, this man is playing Middle Tree Arcstrider for an entire month. Okay, let's see what the hell he comes up with.
My favorite moment of that Middle Arcstrider month was other people started to copy in my lobbies because I was finding success with it. And remember, at the end of the month, I'm a month ahead of them on like the meta and the interactions. So one of them reactively pops a super against me. I pop a super when I'm wearing Raiju's harness. If you're in a super, it's kind of risky to push up, right? So there's this like tug of war of getting position for the fighting game combo finisher of the Arcstrider. I just went into my menu, grabbed Devil's Ruin, canceled my super, and beamed him down because Devil's Ruin goes through the Arcstrider.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that is still a meta swap right now if you want to kill Arc Striders.
Damn, alright.
So Devil's Ruin sidearm.
The laser pointer.
Yeah. That thing is so slept on, not just for killing Arc Striders, it's just a really good gun in general. Makes me happy I picked up controller because I feel like it functions a lot better on it.
Sidearms in general just feel nicer on controller. Like, I feel like sidearms just felt really shit whenever I tried to use them on PC. I tried using it with a controller instead. I'm like, this is a night and day difference. What the hell is going on?
My suspicion is that if it was that easy to use on M and K, we'd be able to hit the damage floor of sidearms for criticals across the map.
Oh god.
And they need to create some way to make M and K harder to use with sidearms. I can't exactly put my finger on it because it's a feel thing.
Oh, apparently.
But I notice an immediate difference when I use a controller. It's like everything is yellow now.
Yeah, there used to be a technical bug apparently where the shots would just not register. You'd get ghost shots.
Right, the velocity.
Yeah.
Now they put it at an absurd number, so it's hit scan.
Yeah, so it's kind of impossible to miss with a sidearm at this point. Even on M&K, if you just pace your shots enough, then yeah, you'll land them. But yeah. Devil's Ruin. I had a horrifying wake-up call yesterday, because after clearing Kingsfall, it's normally clan tradition to just go ahead and, just start up a rumble match and see whoever the fuck wants to go. And yeah, 2 of the raid members dropped out, and we got two PvP addicts in. One of them pulled Devil's Ruin. That was a time. Oh god, that was a time. Because it was just like, he'd ping us a couple of times and be like, oh, he hopped back into cover. Why'd he hop back into... Oh no. Comes back out, beams you down, screams. There wasn't really a very good counter at the time. It was like, oh, this guy's movement is just that much better, huh? Shit.
So I remember one more thing on intrinsic, extrinsic.
Yeah, go for it.
There was that divinity debate and talking about skill floor and accessibility in Destiny 2. And a common response to that from the casual player is something along the lines of, well, just don't use it. Create your own challenges. Destiny has gotten to the point with the mastery players where they can't handicap themselves enough to play the content. It's starting to get to the point where they have to randomize their keybinds and do those outside of the game type challenges. Within the game itself, they can pretty much just use the burnt sidearm with a competent team and beat any encounter. As long as the light level allows it to do damage, they can do it.
Damage travel is
so it's less about just don't use it. I really do think Bungie needs to start giving player tools to create creativity again.
Okay. For me, the way I'd say that is, if you could... Okay, so this is combining the intrinsic and extrinsic stuff and finding that in between, essentially. Have you ever looked into Path of Exile before?
I have a friend named Uber who knows a lot about that.
Okay, so the endgame activities in Path of Exile is weighing up your risk versus reward by adding modifiers to a instance, essentially. So it could be something like, oh, monsters have more life, monsters do more damage, or players are cursed with this and that, or players can't do this and that. And those are all your difficulty modifiers and whatnot. Some maps can go upwards of 8 plus modifiers, and those drop a ridiculous amount of loot. But that's the thing, for each modifier you add onto a map, the more loot you get out of said modifier. So if Destiny could implement something like that for PvE, like just pick and choose your difficulty, and you'd get rewards based on said difficulty, I don't think that'd be too bad, because then at the same time...
When they tie loot to that sort of thing, it makes it harder for me to approach, because I eventually find that right mix of this is the most efficient way to get the loot. And that's kind of just where I sit at until I'm done farming it.
Okay, so Path of Exile has
for
the
the intrinsic player,
as well,
I genuinely think it needs to be like something only cosmetic.
Okay. Because let's see. So
because if it's something that like tangibly makes your character more powerful, it suddenly stops being an interesting activity and becomes a farm to me.
Okay. Fair enough. Because Path of Exile solution to this is eventually you can't actually progress unless you completely randomize your maps. So,
yeah, that sounds fun. Kind of like a roguelite or something.
Yeah. So essentially, it's a feature called corruption. So at a certain point, it's like if you want to progress, blah blah blah, you need to do a corrupted version of this map, which means you can't just do the rare version with all the modifiers you want. You need to do the rare corrupted version, which completely randomizes the modifiers. And sometimes it just gives you one where it's like unidentified corrupted map, which just means completely random modifiers and you have no idea what the fuck you're up against. So for that, in Path of Exile, it's usually a balancing act between risk and reward. It is never just throw yourself against the wall and see what sticks.
So I'm glad you said it in that way. It's about balancing risk and reward. And high-end Destiny 2, I find that often the easiest solutions are often the best solutions.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem with balancing. That's why, again, I go to PSO2 as like my game that I can grind PvE mastery in, because while the easiest solution does provide enough bang to get through all the activities, there is this like hidden crouching tiger method of insane mastery that if I sat on a desert island for 1,000 hours, I might be able to do it sometimes. And just knowing it exists makes me want to try it.
Okay, so my most painful wake-up call was playing on Ship 2 again, coming back to the English server, because I used to play on JP. I was like, oh, time attack used to be the most profitable way of making Meseta. You used to get like 200, 300k just by doing a client order. Maybe I should do time attack. Went in, did the time attack, came back out, 500 Meseta from the client order. I'm like, wait, so what's the reward then? Looks at the leaderboards. Oh fuck, that's the reward. Oh no.
Right. Well, I mean, I kind of like how PSO rewards you for holding a leaderboard spot with the star gems, which to Destiny players is Bright Dust.
Yep.
Imagine you get Bright Dust for performing a speedrun each week.
That would actually be fun.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair reward. A lot of the players there aren't doing it for the reward anyway. They're doing it to improve.
Yeah. Like time attack, whenever a certain time attack came up in PSO2, I was like, oh shit, okay, this is one I've actually optimized the hell out of. All right, time to clear this in 2 minutes, guarantee my spot.
So we're gonna like make a callback to LFGing for activities. What I like about leaderboards and time attacks and those type of things is you can create accolades if you run an off-meta build. So that as you're interacting with other people in the community and they're really questioning the effectiveness of a build or something, you could be like, these are my times, these are my accolades with this build. Do you still want me on the team? And they're like, yeah, we'll take you. So I like that, and I wish Destiny had more of those verifiable accolades with certain builds.
Fair enough. Because one of the ones that I did enjoy a lot was just dumping everything into sidearms and seeing what would actually happen. Because yeah, you have the bloody exotic out there, even that buffs your sidearm damage. I
want to note that's kind of dangerous system that I suggested for gatekeeping. But it's more of a self-satisfaction thing than having more game to play, because you're able to put up equivalent numbers with a harder to use build.
Oh yeah. It's like showcasing your logs on any other FPS or any other MMO.
In other words, it's allowing me to be creative without throwing on the team.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I like a system that can enable that, even if it does come with a little bit of bad.
Like, for me, that's kind of the joy of Path of Exile. If you know the skill tree well enough, and it is a fucking spaghetti of a skill tree, you can start creating your own builds. And when you start creating your own builds, you can do some really nasty stuff. And then if people look it up, they're like, how did this person achieve this? They look into it, it's like, that is several interactions they never expected. And that's all because of build variety and just the fact that it's your skill tree plus unique equipment plus how you implement each and every skill. And it gets to a pretty insane level over there.
So group finding in Destiny 2 versus PSO2, like the entire description and verbiage used on your team is different.
Yeah.
In PSO, I will say something like, oh, this guy's a cracked braver, does something and something. In Destiny 2, I'm like, do we have a well? Like, that's the extent of what I'm asking. Do we have a div? Do we have a well?
Okay.
In PSO, sometimes it's like, do we have a ranger? Do we have a techer?
Yeah.
But even then, the question is, do we know any cracked rangers?
Okay.
We don't say that in Destiny. We don't go, do we know any cracked Dawn Blades? We're like, does anybody have a well?
Okay. So PSO2.
That's the difference in atmosphere that I very much can see between the different types of games.
So for me, when going through PSO2, I was part of the 4chan guilds, essentially. The guys which would play on ship 2, and we'd pretty much stick at the top of the leaderboard for a majority of the time. It was fun because every time you got an urgent to pop, all of a sudden everyone would just flood in and we'd clear it in like 2 minutes or some shit. Some ridiculous number like that, because when we came in it was like, okay, do we have a Tector? Do we have a Ranger with Blight rounds? Okay, good. Alright, where are our gunners? Okay, everyone, pop DPS. And the boss would die in about 30 seconds flat. We would spend more time in loading screens than we would actually killing a boss most of the time. It got pretty insane.
What I liked about the urgent quest situation is sometimes we'd have different amount of people on, and we'd have to team balance in a way that everybody in our clan, our alliance, gets the completion. And sometimes that would make for really cool strategies because of skill diff. Sometimes we'd have someone so good at a class that the strategy was just a system. It's like, forget our own personal damage. If we can boost them, we get more total damage. So do that. And it led to some really fun team interactions.
Okay. So how much have you played Gunner in base game PSO2?
Very little. I skipped Gunner to play Hero if I was going to do TMG.
Okay.
Uber was such a competent gunner that I didn't feel it was worth my time to even try to get good at it. Because I know we had that already checkmarked on our alliance.
Because optimization of Gunner was just how much single target DPS can you pull off in your chain.
I talked to RC about it. It seemed like one of the most intense classes to chase a ceiling.
I chased that ceiling for a while. I got halfway, I would say. Not even halfway.
And that's why I like PSO2.
Because the biggest thing was...
The game is still giving.
Because the biggest thing was there were certain things where you'd actually have to whiff the PA. So you would deliberately have to unlock, target backwards, and then swing back forwards just to get maximum DPS. And then there was a lot of exploits you could do with weapon swapping. It was just like, okay.
Yes, some other classes had a much more interesting weapon swapping meta than others.
Yeah, like, okay, imagine with TMG, so you think, okay, have you seen the Photon Art Messiah time?
I am not familiar with the definitions, but I know them.
Okay, so you dive forwards in slow motion, shoot a couple of bullets, flip upside down, and shoot a shit ton more bullets. So the thing about that is, when playing Gunner, if you wanted to optimize your chain in the most lazy way possible, all you needed to do was make sure that you somehow whiffed the first part of Messiah time, and then landed every single hit of the second half. Thing was, when you activate chain, if the first part of Messiah time hits, the chain activated already.
So you're losing damage because you're starting with the weaker part of the attack.
Yeah, and it takes so long to get to the other part of the attack that by the time you get to the other part, you actually miss half of it entirely.
That makes sense.
So what weapon swapping does is, because the game thinks you're in the middle of swapping to another weapon, you do 0 damage while jumping forwards with Messiah time. So that when you swap back to your actual TMGs, during the flip upside down, you then get maximum damage out of it.
Okay, I see. You're blanking your bullets because of the weapon swap, so that when you return to the original gun, it finishes with the damage it should have done?
Yep. It is a very tight window. If you get it though, that is the laziest way you can do DPS.
I remember Jet Boots had a finisher where you want to switch exactly on the finisher.
Yeah, I heard of that one as well. A friend played a lot of Bouncer. It was just like, oh, yeah, gotta do this. I'm like, wow, okay, that seems very funky.
A lot of classes in PSO have an interesting swap meta. I don't know all of them. And then there's some that are impractical, but they exist. For Ranger, I created my own swap meta. I bring an Arsenal. You might like this one.
Go for it.
It is not 100 percentile DPS. I would say it's honestly like 80 to 85. Okay. It's comfortable, but the most important part is it looks badass and we get the clear anyway.
Okay.
So that's where I went with Ranger. I have an arsenal of weapons, my main damage rifle, my main damage launcher, and then I have my utility weapons. One of my utility launchers is hilarious. It is built for activating the Crass potential. Crass is a weapon series where you have to do 3 normal attacks to power up the weapon. The problem with Ranger is that if you use your Blight rounds, which is equivalent to Divinity and Destiny 2, you get 6 of those loaded into your gun. If you normal attack to activate the Crass potential, you lose a Blight round, which is super important to your team, so you don't want to just dump those. But if you have multiple Crass weapons, you can use a different weapon to normal attack at the cost of damage, but you save your Blight rounds. So I built a rocket launcher with the sole intention of refilling PP, aka special attack meter, while also simultaneously activating the Crass potential and saving the bullets. So what I would typically do is use the rifle, shoot a Blight round to sunder the boss's armor, make everyone's critical go up. As soon as that shoots, I would swap to the other launcher and shoot 2 normal attacks to activate Crass while simultaneously refilling my special attack meter. And here's how the rocket was min-maxed. It had a quad shot on it, which is normally a meme, but if you build it for the intention of just normal attacking, it's the most efficient at refilling.
Oh god.
And since all my weapons are camo differently, doing it in-game is so satisfying to me.
Oh god. Yeah, that reminds me of when I started playing Luster at the end. Because it was just like, oh yeah, 3 different gunblades? Sure, I'll take 3 different gunblades. People were like, oh no, you only need like 1 of them. Nope, I'm taking all 3, buddy.
So that's where my obsession with gear and PSO started. Of just trying to get gear where it's like there's a fringe case where it's slightly better. I want to try to put that in my Ranger arsenal.
Oh god. Because yeah, for Luster, for
be able
example,
to pull like a figurative trench coat, the correct large rifle, oversized for my character.
Yeah, like for example for Luster, there were 3 different gunblades. You could either go full offense, defensive, or dodgy, essentially. And the thing was, if you were a good Luster, you swapped between all 3 of them.
Right.
You were just like...
A lot did the mono element, but the best used all 3 in a combo.
It was like...
There's some fighting game characters that are also interesting like that, where they kind of mirror the entire cast. Sometimes you know when it happens, other times you can activate it. Sometimes it's a random order, other times it's a set order. I don't remember the exact specific games where all those variables are different, but I know that they exist.
I think the funkiest one there is probably Soul Calibur. Just, there are 2 characters in there where you get an absolute random moveset the moment every round starts. So it's like, wait. So the character's like Edgemaster or whatever the heck. It's like, oh, so they have mastery over all edges, right? Right? Every character uses some kind of melee weapon. God.
Swapping between the Luster gunblades in an optimal combo between all the elements is so sick.
Oh yeah. It looks extremely fancy. There are a lot of colors as well. Just like, yes, this guy it's an unavoidable attack. Let's block this. Swaps to white, or swaps to light element. Okay, all right. So this is going to be a shit ton of AOE that we can dodge out of. Okay, let's swap over to green. Let's swap to wind. And up. This is a massive DPS window. All right, we're swapping straight to red. Just everything lines up in the end. Just like, oh god. And it's not like as if you needed
intrinsic. Extrinsic, I talked about a little bit of accessibility and that type of thing. Maybe what Destiny was lacking in the PvE department, contrasting it to PSO. Here's a big thing for me. I'm still chasing that ceiling in PSO. You talked about things looking cool and flashy.
Yeah.
My mom plays PSO. She has been a gamer for a lot of her life, but really doubled down on it with PSO. She plays a summoner in base and a techer in NGS.
Okay.
And so the same enjoyment I get for seeing the colors on the screen and trying to hit an optimal combo, she does too, but at her own pace. And I find that so awesome. In Destiny 2, I don't get that anymore. I'm kind of just bored at the higher end. In PSO, I am still engaged despite having more PvE hours in PSO than Destiny.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, PvP in PSO is
There is no PvP in PSO. There's technically like a little side activity, but it's not balanced in a way that's
Yeah, it's a
playable.
little too funky. Like, you'd do it maybe for the weekly star gems if you were feeling like it, but then after that you're like, yeah, nah. Unless you really wanted to optimize the market, where you just buy one of the camos and be like, okay, here's a camo for like several million Meseta.
I mean, we might farm that as an alliance one of these days just for fun. But it's definitely not a game that you care about improving in. The PvP is unplayable, both in population and in balance.
All I'll say is, the moment you see a sword or soaring blades, grab those immediately. Those are the two things you need.
I still go with rifle or bow. I just try to snipe people.
Oh, the bow's funny. It's like, oh, charge shot, shoot a massive distance. Oh, I hit someone. Oh, they're dead. Oh, that works. I don't know. PvP in PSO is just an absolute nightmare, honestly. It's not as bad as the fact you actually need to do a casino for weeklies, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Most people just went to the Arkema slots and prayed that they didn't luck out, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. With PSO, I think I'd say the class I found the most enjoyable wasn't Luster, wasn't Gunner, it was actually Braver, by far. Like, just learning every last part of Braver, then squeezing it out as like playing a hybrid Braver and just going, okay, I know the optimal bow rotation, I know the optimal katana rotation, exactly when to release, swap, and everything, and it's like, wow, this feels amazing. This looks really cool when you actually pull this off.
I played Braver as an opportunity to try some different fashion, so I did not go the hybrid route. I went a bow Braver, and then just went kind of wild with everything about this character is a bow. A rainbow, bow on her head, bow and arrow, bows on the shoes type thing. Pretty funny.
Okay.
The NGS version went a lot more tame, and I actually did play hybrid there.
Oh, okay.
But in base, it was the bow Braver.
Because, yeah. When I first started PSO2, it was episode 3 Japanese server. And there was one English content creator at the time. That was RC.
Right, Advalera, for those in chat.
Yep. The guy pretty much did boss rush videos, and one of the main things I saw there that looked really cool was anytime he would pull out a bow. So immediately when I got into the game, I was like, okay, how do I get to this point? And it was just looking through all of the gear, seeing everything that would improve the damage of Final Nemesis, finding everything that works with Final Nemesis, putting that all together and just realizing, so I just need to stick something for Banish Arrow, then I need to Final Nemesis it, then I need to follow up with Penetrating Arrows, and then a boss will usually die. Sweet, let's do this.
For me, it was how can I combine being an FPS player with some fighting game combos, and lo and behold, Ranger was pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Fighting game combos, my god. There are some which I've still memorized, some which are needlessly long combo strings where I'm like, there is no way I'm going to use this in an actual match. If I actually pull this off in a match, I'm going to be impressed. Because there is no way I'm getting 30 or 40 hits off of a confirm. That's just like, oh, I could just bread and butter and do like 2k damage, and that's fine. Or I could try do the combo string for 3.5k damage. I will do
That's
the
why
bread and
those are
butter.
my like off-stream games, because I can lose the whole day to just, do I want to learn this unnecessary combo? Yeah, I do. I'll just keep being in training mode all day.
Because yeah, there have been times where I'm up to like 4 a.m. just in lab in certain fighting games. I'm like, I want to learn this combo, I want to learn this combo, I want to learn this combo. Eventually you get there. Then you realize, how do I implement this combo?
I think Destiny only had one balance patch where the fighting game combo was real, and that was Shadebinder. It was one of the stasis patches that tried to tone down stasis, but they kind of left Shadebinder unchecked.
Oh no.
And so you could use its neutral kit to shut down everything in the game if you knew its combos.
Yeah.
And the combos involved refreezing somebody while putting in quick swap damage of other weapons down to like the exact amount of damage you need to kill.
Yeah.
Exact distance away to account for the travel speed type thing.
Yeah, I've seen some disgusting
So it felt
stuff.
like touch of death in fighting games. That's the only way I can describe it.
Oh god. Yes.
And they had to sit there while you go through your whole complicated ass combo. That's the only time Destiny had it. And like, while it was broken and the most powerful thing there, not many people tapped into it. I had 2 weeks where I actually knew what I was doing and savored those 2 weeks.
No.
I still play Shadebinder, by the way, but it's not the same complexity as it once was. Still very powerful, not as complex.
Okay, I can do you slightly one better for style, and that was Radiant Dance Machines.
The bully boots?
Yeah.
When they froze.
Yes. Dodge, freeze, dodge, freeze, dodge, freeze. And after 6 dodges, hi, I am going to dome you now. You get to stand there for an extra second. Okay, you're dead. When I saw that come out, I was like, oh, this is ridiculously abusable. Oh no, and you get your super back doing this?
I'll send you a video after this one of my Radiant Dance Machine video. All you gotta do is watch the intro and you'll immediately know.
Oh god, it was like, you get your super back doing this as well? As freezing someone? Oh,
okay,
no.
so you mentioned those. Arc 3.0 is the newest addition to Destiny 2, and Radiant Dance Machines are kind of cool there as well. Because if you get a Jolt Grenade kill, you become amplified. When you're amplified, your dodge makes you a tank. So you could just keep tank dodging in front of somebody until they're out of all their ammo.
God. I see. Yeah, it's weird synergies like that where I'm kind of just like, how much should you really be allowed to push things in PvP? So, in terms of synergy, what do you think is acceptable in PvP? At like what level does it become too much?
I'm a boring person when I answer this one. I kind of like the game on the more toned down side and the more balanced side.
Okay.
For sake of competitiveness, but I understand that to a lot of the audience, they want to see something unbalanced, wild, chaotic, explosive, etc.
Uh-huh.
So now I'm happy to compromise right in the middle.
Okay. Let's say, if there's one very weird part about Gambit, it's just the fact that all of the PvE mods can start interacting with PvP.
Yeah, you can kill somebody with a Warmind cell if you want to. It's pretty funny.
I've done that. That is a specific example I was going to bring up. It's like, there's a Warmind cell. I threw it at this guy. This guy didn't know what was happening. He then took a sniper to the Warmind cell.
You can use their Warmind cells to kill them, which is funnier.
Oh god. Yeah. Fair enough then, because let's see. Would you say there is very much build diversity in PvP then, in that regard?
There is artificial diversity when we get something new, a honeymoon period.
Okay.
The second thing that attributes to that is the artifact.
Okay.
Artifact changes every season and sometimes adds benefits to certain weapons and abilities.
Alright.
So right
Classy
now
restoration,
people are
for
trying
example.
the quote-unquote new things.
Uh-huh.
And when there is good loot on the line in trials, you will probably see the good things.
I'm just waiting for Igneous Hammer to come back, honestly, if that thing ever does come
Right,
back.
if Igneous Hammer came out next weekend, you would see a lot of people take off the Arc and start throwing on Invis and Bubble Titans.
Oh, yeah.
And Linear Fusions.
Honestly, I think I've had the most fun interactions dealing with Bubble Titans. Because everyone kind of wants to know, okay, what kills a bubble? There are a lot of things that kill a bubble. But to me, the funniest one is dropping a Well of Radiance on top of it.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I've done that twice on stream and I was just like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting away with this. And they were...
Bubble is so part of the high-end meta in Destiny 2 that I look for ways to consistently beat it with my neutral game.
Huh.
And there's not very many. Ideally, you want to have a plan where you can do it by yourself,
Okay.
but also have the contingency of teammates going in at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And
That's it.
there was like a shadow patch that changed some of the numbers on those kill combos for bubbles. So I got to revisit it. But one thing slipped through the cracks on Arc 3.0. Storm grenades pierce through the bubble if you have the enhanced storm nade. So that also opened up a lot of new options to combo with the storm nade.
Okay, I can say that. Jesus. All right.
So I used to be reliant on a perk called 1-2 punch on a shotgun.
Oh.
Where if you land all of the pellets, it increases your melee damage.
Oh no.
And depending on the situation of a bubble, you would get the one-hit kill with that combo.
Okay, yeah, I can see that happening actually. Yeah, I can see that happening.
So while everybody was always talking about what's the best shotgun perks, what's the farthest range killing shotgun, I was kind of like, I can't take off 1-2 punch or I lose the bubble, so I have to keep it on. But like I said, now that Stormnade's Pierce, I get to use other things again.
Because I think the biggest thing was just they drop a bubble. Okay, sure, there's a way of dealing with that. They drop a bubble plus a barricade. Oh no, that becomes a lot harder all of a sudden. Yeah, like then you need to find the contingency around the freaking barricade, and it's like, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with this?
There's some like really small interactions where you like maybe don't have enough ammo, so you realize the next best thing is to melee the barricade. But if they're too close to the barricade, your character will try to melee them through the barricade and you take damage. So you have to intentionally look at the floor and then snap upward as you start the melee animation. Like, it gets really intricate. The little things you can do to up your skill over the next person in PvP.
Yeah, like one of the funny ones I've found is just when you're optimizing, say, just standard melee. Because the thing is, you could just melee and then just tap them once, tap them again. And it's like, oh yeah, 2-hit kill, but normally you'll just trade. But if you tap them once and either jump or find a way of sneaking behind them, they are going to miss that second tap and you'll get to tap them first. And it's just like, oh, yeah, just dance. Because it's a very similar mindset to playing Spy in Team Fortress 2, where you go one way, flip the other instantly, and you just ankle break them. The Spy, though, in TF2,
that is why the Hunter is maybe the most played class in Destiny PvP. It's because of the agility of the jump being able to yoink you out of melee range or back into melee range.
So
even the ankle breaker jump.
Yeah, ankle break is... When you see it happen to you, you're just like, oh god, okay. Jesus, alright, I need to find a contingency plan for this. My contingency plan as a warlock, last night at least, was actually very funny. It was just, oh, I used the finger snap. That way, it doesn't matter which direction they headed, if I aim in their general direction, wherever the heck they flipped over to, well, they're eating melee anyway. And normally they end up exactly in the range of the explosion, just by the distance of the jump. And I'm like, yep, okay. All right.
I've been using that melee for a more sinister reason. You're able to cancel the slide animation with that melee.
Oh, shit.
So if you have a slide where you're like, I'm going to get shot if I finish this slide, you can just immediately cancel the slide and Icarus dash back the direction you came.
Holy fuck, okay.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be nerfed, so probably not worth learning.
Yeah, it sounds like a crazy amount of ability, honestly. Though it does.
It is niche right now. You're not going to see anybody doing it, but it is strong.
Sounds like it has strict requirements, though. At least you need that Icarus dash and you need the melee up.
And you need to not have a supercharged, because you're using the super key to melee.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that is very niche. Niche to the point where I think they might not touch it even, in that case.
I was also thinking that. I don't mind using it in trials because nowadays, I should say the playlist meta is to swap weapons where it's convenient or swap your whole loadout in the match. Not even in between rounds, in the same round.
Oh.
So if they're going to be doing that, I'm snap canceling.
Okay. So if people are bothered to inventory swap.
For example, they start off with a linear fusion rifle. They run out of ammo. It's a special weapon, and then they switch to a bow.
Ah, okay.
So in my team comms, in my head, I'm like, all right, hard part done. Now we play primaries. Nope, they have a bow. We still have to treat range with respect.
I see. Let's see, that just reminds me of like RuneScape days, pretty much, where someone would see that you swapped your prayers over to like melee reflection or magic reflection or range deflection, so suddenly you see someone change their entire gear set to the opposite kind of damage.
Funny you say that. That's the PvE meta right now. It's the full gear swaps.
Okay, I can say that. I
So
can
for
say that.
Storm Titans, they're swapping off all their gear to take advantage of a mod called Firepower that replenishes your grenade.
Uh-huh.
For the Master Raid yesterday, I was gear swapping on and off Aeons to make power ammo, and onto Star Eater scales to use my super for damage. So despite me being like the team's utility box, I'm still outputting on par damage, which I thought was really cool.
Okay. Fair enough, because I know there are a lot of odd swaps here and there. For
In PvP, the most
PvP
popular
and PvE.
swap is onto Raiju's harness with the Arc super, because it drains the super less, and if you die, you still keep it.
And the super, let's say, the super lasts quite a long while these days, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And we talked about matchups earlier. Keep a Devil's Ruin in your inventory if you really hate them.
Because like last night I was just like, okay, guy activates Arc Staff, what's the worst that could happen? These 4 people go down, okay, what's the worst that could happen? He still has the super, fuck. And he's charging
Even
towards
Shadebinder
me.
struggles dealing with it. If they right trigger swipe you instead of right bumper swipe you, you will die on a freeze rift.
Ooh. Huh.
So little things like that where I just realized the only answer is to run or have the better loadout.
Yeah. Fair enough. Because, yeah, like, I don't think there's anything in Destiny that's 100% uncontestable, at least from my knowledge. There are ways of contesting things, it's just that I think the only thing might just be snipers. That's about it.
Oh yeah, those are a problem at the high end because of that though. As pretty much any FPS game eventually gets to, the meta becomes so practiced that snipers kind of run the show.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, okay, I mentioned Hunt Showdown before the interview. That game has a massive kind of sniperish problem. It's probably the biggest skill gap by far. Someone who can snipe and someone who can't snipe. Because if someone is able to snipe, they are able to dome you from 500 meters away plus. And they can kind of just sit in the bush, wait for you to peek your head out the wrong window, and you will immediately die. On the other hand...
Yep, that's just the thing. The good players are so consistently good at doing that both far and close quarters that there's the respect that no one is going to challenge each other. So the games become really drawn out.
The thing with Hunt is it eventually becomes better to be aggressive, because eventually you need to push into those buildings. You need to actually fight in close quarters. So at that point, there are 2 different competing metas in that game. It's either you're a sniper boy and you're sitting at a very long distance waiting for someone to peek out the wrong door, or you're someone with a shotgun. If you're that someone with a shotgun, you are sitting in a corner waiting for someone to come into the wrong door.
Sounds like Destiny 2 to me.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, when you have to design around potential one-shots, that becomes probably the more difficult problem to handle. Because any kind of one-shot combo, or instant death kind of combo, touch of death or whatever, to a game dev, it's usually a problem. It's usually something that you have to try and address at some point or another. Because eventually...
Right. Normally there are trade-offs associated with it. It's just, the game is never really balanced for the top players, so there's not really a lot of trade-offs to the snipe.
Yeah, because
that's why they gravitate towards it.
The one thing in both games is the snipe scope range is a little... Well, the snipe zoom magnification is a bit high, is the thing. Like, usually ridiculously high. So for Destiny, if you're looking down a lane with a sniper, it's like, this feels like, some lanes it just feels like, this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
Some others it feels like, oh, this isn't enough. Then for Hunt, almost like 90 to 95% of the time, it's like, this is always too much. This sniper scope is impossible to aim through. Yeah. So that's why there's that skill gap there, because the moment someone actually gets around that particular fact, they can now engage you at every range. But yeah. If you can immediately snap onto someone's head and click, problem solved. Death is the easiest way of dealing with someone. Doesn't matter if you debuff them in a million ways. unless you're putting them out of the game in some way or another, then nothing is going to beat just killing them.
Right.
It's why I think, let's see, stuns or any kind of sleep are probably the most powerful debuff by far. And then followed up by death. Because if you stun or sleep someone, they're stuck out of the game for an amount of time, but they're not spending that time respawning, or not spending that time getting back into the game. And then if you finish them off right at the end of the duration, then they've got to sit out that entire respawn. That's probably
in
why...
arena shooters,
yeah.
I would say stalling like that can sometimes be more beneficial than the kill itself.
Yeah.
Because it enables a stagger spawn or a spawn trap to keep an enemy purposely waiting some area.
Like that's part of why stasis could have felt really oppressive early on, because that super long freeze, and it's like, I can't do anything about this while they're capturing my point and enabling a ridiculous spawn trap. Okay, we're all stuck in this freaking garage while they have C. Alright, we're screwed.
I could see how stasis was made from a dev perspective, as in, being stuck in stasis, the dictionary definition of stasis, is not as bad as being in the spawn screen, right? But then people are smarter than that in Destiny. They pocket damage boosters, they set up spawn traps, they farm you for super energy type thing. And so you're not just stuck in stasis, you're being used as part of a combo.
Oh, yeah. Because Destiny, there are a lot of moving parts. Like, there are more moving parts than most FPS games. I think pretty much all FPS games, maybe...
Which is why it's so hard to balance, and I definitely acknowledge that.
All FPS games, maybe bar MechWarrior, I think. Yeah, pretty much. The only one I can see that would go beyond is probably MechWarrior. But MechWarrior is a different beast. MechWarrior is a very different beast. For that one, imagine everyone can come in with a literal complete custom machine. Whether they want lasers, missiles, ballistics, whatever the fuck they want. Now imagine that there are 12 people on each team. Yeah, it can go a lot of places. It can go a ridiculous amount of places. The interesting thing about MechWarrior in comparison is it doesn't actually have a very high skill ceiling. Skill floor is the problem.
That can be. The skill floor is way too accessible, then the easiest option often is the best option.
So for MechWarrior, skill floor is actually ridiculously high because you need to get around the fact of learning all of the systems your mech is capable of doing, whether it be managing heat, jump, lasers, ballistics, missiles, whatever bloody systems you've got on that damn thing. You gotta find all of those out, how to most effectively use them, at what times you can override, what times you should be doing this and that. Once you get past all of that though, there isn't actually that much more to learn. You just need to position according to your team. You need to have a good commander that can call out the rest of your team and position your team, and then from there, it is pretty much that. It's a commander versus commander, as long as people can make their shots, which is not actually very hard at all in MechWarrior. Yeah, that's the sheer extent of it. That's the skill ceiling hit. So when you get to the highest levels of competitive play in that particular game, the matches can get ridiculously even. There's almost never a blowout. It's always just two commanders trying to poke each other out and figure out, okay, who can I use as a rabbit so that I can catch the rest of them? Or how do I just burn through this side so that I can flank this other side, blah, blah, blah. It's a very weird scene. It's definitely one that I'd encourage you to look into at some time, because it may be a dying game, but it is definitely one where you can find a lot of weird build potential and a lot of very funky synergies you can pull off. But yeah.
Another one like that people suggested to me was Guns the Duel.
Oh.
Break my hands, early arthritis.
I was actually going to mention Guns the Duel later on, even, because... Okay. I may as well bring this question further forwards. Have you ever heard of the MDA model before? At least in terms
I have
of
not.
Game design. So it's coined by a certain professor. Essentially, it is 3 parts to a game. All games are made out of mechanics, dynamics, and the aesthetic. The
Okay.
mechanics refer to the game rules and the pieces needed to play. So in chess, it would be how the pieces move, how the board, what pieces you have, and the win condition of, well, take their king. Checkmate their king. The dynamics are then what the players do in response to these rules. So essentially, this is the formation of the meta. Figuring out, okay, so if you need to take the king, how do you get there? Okay, so there's a bunch of opening gambits you can make. There are a bunch of strategies you then go from that opening gambit. Eventually, if yours is better than the other person and your decision making lined up, you win. This brings it to the final step, and that is aesthetics. And the aesthetics is simply, what is the experience? What is the overall feeling that you're trying to convey? In the case of chess, this is the feeling of commanding like a grand army or employing like a grand strategy, being a mastermind. Destiny kind of has this in the level of, okay, what are the mechanics? Okay, you have your gear, you have the ability to shoot, you have your abilities. Okay, there's a shit ton here. Okay, what do players do with this? They find the ways to exploit the ever-living hell out of it and find the most effective way of killing another player. Okay, fair enough. What does this result in? You feeling that you either have superiority over another player or having mastery over the systems in the game. And just having a higher skill. So that feeling of achieving mastery in the end. All games will fall under these three principles. It is the most universal way of breaking down a game, so to speak. And it is more or less what you would use as a game dev to figure out the kind of experience you want to deliver to a player base. I think you've described it best in one of your videos before, and that was the feeling of becoming legend. I think that is probably the most applicable one you can have to Destiny, honestly.
Yes.
Because
I can expand on that too. I mean,
yeah, go for it.
Legend to me means that you have mastered a kit that gets results and not just surprising the other opponent. You are just good at that thing in PvP.
Okay.
Shadebinder is an example. I can think of 2 players that I think are legends for playing that class in a certain way to get results.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Others, it could be just a weapon type. Like, I know a guy who logs in once every couple months. He's a trace rifle user, dominates a lobby, and then leaves. That guy's a legend.
Alright. Let's see, at that point then, I think the definition of legend would simply be one you can tell a story about. A very distinct story about them. So just find that person that you go up against and you're like, oh god. Okay, I'm going up against this person.
Sometimes it's the kill counter on weapons in Destiny. They're like, this guy is 70,000 on a single sidearm.
Oh, Jesus, fuck. Okay. I think I've run into a guy with that amount on a Jotun before, and that was just, oh, this man loves his toaster. Oh no. Yeah, go.
The only thing I wish the kill counter tracked was input device. I wish I could show all my 10k last word.
Is that a 10k MNK or 10k controller?
10k MNK.
Jesus fuck, how'd you pull that off?
It's a lot of practice. In Destiny, it's not about just aiming at the center of the head. It's about knowing the likelihood of a bullet bending in a way that benefits you. Like sometimes a bullet might overcorrect and hit the wall instead of their head, so you have to aim at their health bar to hit their head.
Oh god. Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's subtleties like that that lead to consistency overall.
Because, when you read over the stats to say last word, it's like, okay, so there's an additional aim assist angle or additional degrees to which you can abuse the aim assist. Okay, what can you do with this? And it's like, in practice, it's just, oh yeah, this just adds more consistency. But then...
It has a perk called Fanfire that gives it more accuracy just for landing shots.
Yep.
So how loose you are with your shot, to me, depends on how many stacks of that I have.
Jesus Christ. Doesn't the thing only have, like, what, 8 shots total? And you can get to, like, Fanfire 4?
8 total, yeah.
Yeah. Fanfire 4, 8 shots total, so you have 4 shots of abusive.
Sometimes I'll empty it down to the last 3 just to tell them, like, you can push now. I'll try to hit it. I hit it sometimes, but It's really funny when it works. When that is what goads somebody the confidence to fly out of cover. It's just hearing me empty the mag into the floor.
It's just the...
Because it's a scary weapon.
Yeah,
in the 20 meters, it is a machine gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's the literal, are you feeling lucky, punk?
Mm-hmm.
Guy goes in, guy gets free tapped. Oh, he wasn't feeling so lucky, huh? I don't know. If I had a story to tell about one guy, it's about a one-eyed cyclops that if you got in close range with the guy, you're just not getting back out. Yeah. Yeah, that guy, every time I've gone into PvP with that guy, it was just a kind of miserable experience, because I like playing my mid-range. I like my pulse rifles, my hand cannons, and my bow swapping. This guy, he liked his shotguns, and to prove his point, he took out the worst shotgun he had in his vault. Something that was either just like white frame or green frame or whatever, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this against you. He completely wiped the floor clean with me. And there was very little I could do about it. I tried pulling out most of the stops of my own. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to engage unless I'm at a long distance, or I'm not going to engage unless I'm at a medium distance. No, he just found creative ways around that. It was just like, nah, fuck it. I'm going to hug this cover. You're going to have to push, mate. If not,
Yeah, skill diff is a thing.
Yeah, skill diff. It hurts when you see it, but at the same time, just take that pain, go and be like, okay, skill diff. All right, let's make up the difference. Let's learn what we need to make up the difference.
Right.
But yeah.
The best part about FPS games is skill diff doesn't come up as much as you think, because a lot of them are team games.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring that up.
So it doesn't matter to me if someone's better than me in the 1v1 or whatever. I'm going to have to take the fight anyway, because it makes the most sense in the team environment to take this fight. Doesn't matter if I think they're better than me. I'm taking it anyway, because it's the right play.
Yeah. And that's my own personal logic with a lot of stuff. When it comes to FPS, it's like, okay, what do I achieve by running in? Okay, what do I achieve by staying back? Okay, I achieved literally nothing by staying back, so I guess we're entry fragging then, because everyone else is a coward in this team.
Well, this creates a dynamic with skill-based matchmaking, where oftentimes the best decision isn't the best decision because playing with your team is the best decision. And if they're all really bad at decision making, you have to purposely make a bad decision, which is now your best decision.
Oh. Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense, because some of the stuff I've done before in, say, Hunt, for example, it's like, okay, there's like four other teams at this compound. Okay, the worst idea would be giving away our position. However, in the context of there being 4 other teams, this might actually be the best decision, because now the teams that are sitting further back are actually going to try and come forwards. They are going to spot the teams that are already forwards. Therefore, they are going to start cannibalizing each other instead of actually going for us. So by exposing ourselves to a massive amount of gunfire, we have in turn cannibalized the opponents. There are odd little meta plays like that you can make here and there. And it's all just based around teamwork. Because the thing is, at that point, it's like, oh, we're not both being the bait. No, I'm just being the rabbit. I'm taking out my flare pistol because I'm an idiot and I'm shooting upwards. Meanwhile, my mate is up in that tower over there ready to snipe your asses when you expose yourselves.
If I had to summarize it, its speed of coordination is better than the best decision. So the third best decision done faster than the best decision done slow is so much better.
Honestly, I see that probably the most often when you're trying to salvage a raid. Like, it's like, oh, we're about to wipe. What can we do? Well, we keep going with DPS phase. We're not going to perfect DPS phase, but whatever. Pump out as much DPS as you can. And now, let us just pick the guy up, and let's go again. Just gotta leave him dead on the ground for a bit. It's like, sure, you could have a hero moment where one of you leaves the DPS and, you know, comes and helps the guy up and then swaps in. Or, you know, you could just continue without them. Sometimes leaving people dead on the ground is the right decision. Weirdly enough, that was the case in a bunch of FF14 raids, where the actual smartest decision was to have one person tank about 6 mechanics, die on the floor, so that you wouldn't have to process the 6 mechanics.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyhow. On to a more specific question regarding things. What do you find is the impact of a content creator when it comes to a game? Like, if I'm to pull out
Depends on how receptive the devs are and how loud the community is.
Okay. Alright.
Also, I guess it depends on the creator themselves, right? Because if they're creating interesting, fun content, then that's good. That's advertisement for a game. So it's gonna sound weird, but sometimes I think the best way to change a game if you're a known, established, big content creator is just to not play it anymore.
Oh. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, at one point when I was playing Destiny, one of the things that put me off for a bit was when Hush stopped playing. The guy just dropped it cold turkey. I was like, huh? Wait, is there actually something wrong with this game? So I started looking into it further, started caring a bit more and more about PvP, seeing what was going on, and then I was like, oh yeah, there are some fundamental problems here and there. Then the guy came back and I was like, I guess some of the problems have been addressed. I may as well take a second peek. Yeah, I can say that. Let's see. If I'm to pull out one other odd example I've run into in past. When PSO2 came out for global, I think the worst experience I had was trying to manipulate the market. Because you see, when you're among the top lot, everyone is pretty much playing the market, trying to make billions in Meseta, and trying to make gear that's worth several hundreds of million in terms of affixes and whatnot. You'd see people with like 8 affixes and they would be like best in slot for each unit. And it'd be like, Jesus Christ, okay, that's why you're doing your magnificent amount of damage. The one content creator, sorry, I'm gonna call this cunt out, that kind of threw a lot of things to the wayside in terms of how much we could manipulate in the market was actually Anamana. That one guy, the moment he came out with anything about affixes, we'd be like, come on, we were farming this for like the past month. And now you're gonna flip this on us? Really? We could cash out a quick buck, but after that, being able to stock up on that kind of stuff for future was pretty painful. So for example, when Doombreak first became a thing, we were like, okay, we are going to quietly farm away Doombreak for like the past week. Yep. Okay. We've got our Doombreak ready so that we can have Doombreak free onto our units and everything when it comes out. All right, sweet. Anamana comes along, makes a video, Doombreak skyrockets in price. We're just like, okay, sure, we can cash out. We cashed out, and then afterwards, Doombreak dropped to pretty much worthless. It became like, what, 10k Meseta at most? Just to see a single Doombreak?
I disagree that that's a malicious thing. I think that's expected in the information age. If it's not content creators, players aren't stupid. They're gonna find out what the most efficient strategy is. Like it might be a little bit later, but they're gonna find it out. So it's inevitable that if you're playing the market, you have to dump. You should never feel slighted by someone else giving the information.
Like I didn't feel like it was malicious at the time. It was just like, well, this throws some of our plans out. All right, we gotta dump it. Start dumping. I think the funnier one that we did though was Earth Crystals. How much do you think an Earth Crystal should have been worth?
I don't remember. For those type of things, I just gave them to Uber without thinking about it because I knew that the crafting had to be done. I didn't care about the price. I just knew the crafting had to be done. So an Earth Crystal, when they first introduced episode 4, dumping in Earth and everything, Earth Crystal was maybe 10k to 20k Meseta. People thought that's all it was worth. No one really knew the effectiveness of timed abilities quite as much. Everyone in my lot, we were from the JP end, we all knew how important they would be. So the moment we saw that, we bought them up in droves. On ship 2, we actually jacked the price up to about 400k Meseta each.
So yeah, we completely flipped the market. Alright, I think we're reconnected. Hello, hello? Just completely dies on you. It is what it is. But yeah. So what would you say then is the impact of Destiny content creators then? Because I will say, almost every time I see a new gun come out, someone is out there blasting praises for it.
Okay, so a lot of my friends always give me shit about that. They're like, oh, if I see a Wither Horde, it's Cam's fault. And I mean, I guess they would be kind of right about that. If you're asking about the content creator impact, there are a lot of impressionable viewers that will take their word and just think something is the best because a content creator uses it.
Okay.
Other times, it's because they read the perk description, not because a content creator also read the perk description. An example of this could be Shatter Dive in the early stasis meta. We should not have been surprised that that became rampant, and it wasn't because of content creators. It was because it was good.
Yeah, there was a time where I was that guy who would go around and be like, that people would ask, okay, so what weapons do you use? Shadow Dive. They're like, what? No, I'm not kidding. Shadow Dive. That's my primary weapon. I wish that was a joke at the time. I wish it was, but it was just that strong that I was like, you know, why would you shoot someone when you can jump high in the air, throw a grenade completely at their feet, freeze them, and absolutely obliterate them and their teammates about 2-3 meters away? It was just needlessly overpowered for what it was. They nerfed it at this point, but it's still an excessively good movement tool. You could be up in the air 1 second and down on the ground.
That is why I use it. That is my main class on console because of the movement.
Like when you get used to it, it's like, okay, I'm exposed. I'm no longer exposed. Haha. Because then you can take a lot riskier peaks or just make a fair bit more mistakes. So long as you've got that in reserve, it's just like, there's no real cost to it either in comparison to the Void one. Where for Void, you literally have to use your melee, but then, yeah. For Shadow Dive, it's just like, nah, this is free. Let's go. And then that was the same with, what was it, Bottom Tree Dawnblade before, and now they've made it into your class ability, so you can't really abuse it as much. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Anyhow, I do have to ask though at this point, so around this time last year, I did ask RC if it was worth getting back into PSO2, specifically for NGS. The fella at the time said, give it a year. What are your current thoughts? Is it worth coming back after an entire year?
It's not a game you can main and play 18 hours a day.
Oh, okay.
Come back to it seasonally, go through the free content, and if you enjoy the free content, stay for a little bit. It's constantly improving on an upward trend, but it's still not exactly where I want to see it.
All right. Fair enough.
But it is absolutely worth visiting once a season, for sure.
All right. I'll keep that in mind, because God,
it's pretty quick to progress.
That game burns.
And
like,
you don't need best in slot or all the cosmetics to enjoy the game. I don't think, at least.
Because that game either burnt a hole in my wallet or burnt a hole in my hard drive space, if I'm honest.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, because eventually you're like, okay, what's the most effective way to flip the market? Oh, just take your wallet out and buy scratch tickets. That literally just became the most effective way after a while, and it was kind of unfortunate in that regard. Anyhow, on a less depressing note, what was your favorite class when it came to PSO2 then?
For base, Ranger. For New Genesis, I kind of just stuck to Ranger anyway, but I did like most of them.
Okay.
They all got glow ups and updates at different times. So at one point I was really into Hunter, then Force got updated, then I was really into Force, then I tried Braver, then Waker came out, which is Summoner.
Uh-huh.
So I've kind of bounced between all of them, but go back to Ranger always.
Okay. Because myself, it was Braver for the base game, because that's just the reason I even played the game to begin with. And then when it came to, let's see, when it came to NGS, Braver was actually the reason I quit. It was the single quit moment for me, because when they came out with Braver, they killed the entire original class identity. It went from explosive, very fast class into, okay, I sit here, I tank, and I counter. And then
Yeah, that's the issue with NGS. It's going down a completely different path.
Yeah.
I'm still happy that they tied the games together. That definitely has some pros and cons.
Yeah.
But nothing's stopping me from just continuing playing PSO2.
Yep. I'll say the biggest con for me is just the amount of hard disk space that thing takes up, because it's like over 100.
100%.
Over 100 gigs. Because did you know they used to actually let the game be playable on PS Vita?
Yes.
And the thing about playing it on Vita was you actually needed both the physical cartridge and the biggest size memory card you could get. Because the reason why they stopped supporting it on Vita was, one, because they wanted to graphical update and bring it to like PS4, bring NGS in eventually. The other part was
they couldn't fit it on Vita.
We couldn't fit it anymore. Like, because the thing was, it was a 32 gigabyte cartridge plus 128 gigabyte memory stick, and it still wasn't enough. Mainly because of the space that needs to be reserved on both of those to make it actually function, but yeah, you just couldn't actually play the game anymore. So they were like, yeah, nah, can't have the game anymore. Okay, we're gonna port it over to the Switch instead. So yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Anyhow. Here's a rather odd one. So considering you are more of that player that does go ahead, grind for intrinsic stuff and whatnot, how much do you actually care about good storytelling in your games?
Very, very, very little. Scale of 1 to 10 of 1.
Wow.
But if the game is specifically about storytelling and I play it through that, I'll enjoy it. It's like watching a movie to me, but if it comes at the cost of gameplay mechanics, I don't care about story.
So if
it enhances the gameplay mechanics, I like story.
So for Destiny, I take it you didn't give too much of a damn about the story.
Correct. I like the world. I don't care much for the specific story.
Oh. And I think probably the most fun thing I found about Destiny was just the fact that after the raid, a shit ton of stuff unlocks. So there is a reason for the community to go out of their way for other reasons. Just being like, okay, if we beat the raid, what happens to the state of the game? And like, there are big ones like Last Wish, where it's like, oh yeah, the entire Dreaming City just gets completely fucked over every couple of weeks. Or like, what's it called? Deepstone Crypt, where the entirety of Europa just has a space station being rained down upon it now.
Well, I can definitely appreciate that, and I think the art team is amazing. Always knocks it out of the park. I'm just more like, yeah, let me just start grinding this loot for PvP. I want to try this build. Oh, is that crate moved a little bit this week?
Nice.
Oh, the space station's on fire this time. Interesting. All right, back to the Lost Sector.
Oh god. Yeah. The one thing that I found quite interesting when it came to you grinding was just the sheer amount of time you spent just in lost sectors and optimizing lost sectors. Like,
that's where you get the exotics, so that's where most of your time is sunk.
Yeah, because I'm just like, this guy clears these off in like, what, 2 minutes or something like that? I'm like, huh, that's fast. That's goddamn fast. All right.
Sometimes I'll put an experimental build just for fun, but a lot of the time I just put what I know is the mix of consistency and speed.
Because yeah, like the odds of an exotic dropping aren't exactly the highest, but as long as you can clear the concept
But with the right
enough.
stat distribution is so low.
Yeah, like when it came to exotics, I'm just like, okay, I will just take what I can get. Honestly, I was lucky enough that I got an Ophidian that matched up with exactly what I needed, but it is still not quite enough to get triple 100. So I'm just like, you know what?
So for me, if I want to run stuff that isn't hard meta, it has to be super optimized to compete in SBMM. So unfortunately, I really do have to care about those little stat points.
Yeah, because myself, if I can get as close to possible as triple 100, if it's like 100, 90, 100, I'll live with that, honestly. As long as that 90 is in like, I don't know, maybe intellect, because I'm just like, okay, I'm running like a class that doesn't really care as much for their super. Okay, fine.
Right.
Like, if I'm running something like, for whatever reason, I'm running well in a 6v6 mode, because funny enough, well is actually pretty effective from time to time when it comes to objective game modes. It's just like, alright,
Yes, it
sure.
is.
I don't care too much about my super or my intelligence. So, yeah, I can drop a bit there. I'll just pump up recovery instead. I'll just pump up recovery, mobility, and other stats that I'd prefer to have. Because honestly, the way that I just play Dawnblade is just not even utilizing half the offensive kit. It's just utilizing, okay, I have a ridiculous amount of mobility. I have the ability to heal people. Okay, let's go. And in that case, it's just,
Yeah,
okay.
Dawnblade's still one of the best for sure.
It's like, I will take out my Lumina, I will take out Boots of the Assembler, and I will just help people instead. Because if I'm not going to be able to make those shots, someone else is going to be able to. But yeah, in that regard, what are your feelings on tech or like hidden mechanics? So things that aren't necessarily intended by the game devs, but end up being like unintentional interactions that work in your favor. For example, say like, yeah, shooting your trip mine out of the air.
I think the snap canceling right now, the slide canceling or whatever on Dawnblade is a better example of that.
Okay. Oh,
Shatter well skate too, yeah.
Shatter skate, yeah. Like, what are your thoughts on those?
Some of those, if they promote a healthier skill gap that is realistically attainable, then I think it's okay to say that bug now becomes a feature. But if it creates an unplayable, uncounterable, where everybody has to use it or they're not competing situation, it needs to go. An example of that in Destiny 1 was Shade Step glitch.
Okay.
Where you could cancel the Shade Step animation, which is equivalent to Hunter Dodge now, and your character is able to shoot on your screen, but on their screen, you're still in the dodge roll animation.
Oh.
So not only is it advantageous because you're doing an evasive movement while being able to output damage, but your opponent doesn't know where to aim because they don't know what is the true hitbox.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, that's just plain abusive then in
So
which case.
while it did take skill to do, it was uncounterable. So it had to be nerfed.
Huh.
That's where I draw the line.
Okay. Because, like, for example, there are entire games just built around this particular fact that you
Guns
can.
the duel.
Yeah, guns the duel.
Smash melee.
Smash melee. Yep. Wave dashing is a thing, and wave dashing is broken. Therefore,
L
everyone
canceling
use wave
was
dashing.
intended. I don't know about wave dash though.
I don't know. For Guns the Duel, it just produced an entire community around the damn thing. Everyone was going on about K-style and all the different ways you could exploit that shit. There was just a ridiculous amount of stuff you could do with somewhat unintended interactions that eventually just became the norm. Eventually, Guns had a spiritual successor, that being S4 League. S4 League was good. S4 League had some of these interesting interactions still. And then they introduced weapons that broke the game. The weapons that broke the game were a homing rifle. So if you can imagine, A game that's about being really fancy and dodging bullets and dodging people's attacks. Suddenly getting a weapon that just decides, I don't care about your evasive maneuvers, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a bit too much of a problem. Because yeah, before it used to be, okay, be a high flyer, dodge all over the place, find ways of optimizing your dash. Nope, just pull out a homing rifle, sit at a distance, pop someone's head. Became probably the most depressing experience possible. And the thing was, they did that with the second guns that released. So when Guns 2 released, they actually removed all of the extra stuff that you could do by exploiting the mechanics. You couldn't climb walls, you couldn't do anything particularly funky. It was just, yeah, nah. You're on the ground, you have a sword and a gun, and that's it.
So specifically in Destiny right now, I would say that there is one unintended mechanic that I think should be nerfed, even though I'm probably one of the better players at doing it.
Okay.
And that is scroll wheel skating on slopes and then chaining your movement with bunny hops.
Oh,
Other
God.
people can do it, but they can't abuse it. But because the top players can abuse it, I think it warrants a nerf.
Okay.
You should not be able to scroll wheel, ramp up spacebar on the edge of a stairway or a ramp to get slingshot speed. That's what I'm talking about. And it's not only just the first jump, it's chaining the momentum after the first jump. That's where the difference maker is.
Because I can think of a similar thing in, say, Titanfall, for example.
Okay.
In Titanfall, the biggest difference maker was whether or not you knew how to skate. If you couldn't skate or ski, then you were getting styled on by pretty much everyone else. Because it was pretty simple. You just learnt how to build up momentum, slide, and then bunny hop off those slides. Then you would start skiing around and you would actually 100% maintain your momentum. The difference maker was whether or not you could actually switch to different directions or not. If you could turn, then you were a god. If you could not turn, then, well, you were sitting duck because you were going in a straight line. And that's the thing.
It definitely helps to be an experienced PvP player when I talk about these things, because if I didn't, it would just sound really salty if I wasn't good at these things.
Yeah, fair.
It'd be like, oh man, you're just mad because other people can skate better than you. It's like, no, it breaks the map design because they didn't design it around this speed.
Okay. So the last part about that Titanfall example is building up the momentum part. That's the difference maker. Like, that's the biggest difference maker. For your average player, that's just going to be, I run on a wall because wall running is faster. I jump off that wall, I start skating. That's like, okay, that's like base level. One level up from there is like, oh, I throw a grenade behind me. I use the grenade's explosions to propel me forwards. And then I use that to keep the momentum up and speed through things. Okay, sure. The last level is I use a grappling hook. The grappling hook then lets me do a complete and total 360 and slingshot me around something so that I can get even more momentum, then use the grappling hook to change my direction at a moment's notice and be Spider-Man. Now, not only do you have someone that skis on everything, you have someone that skis on everything while web-slinging around and popping headshots.
And not only that, is now agile because they can use the grapple to send it back the other direction with very little startup.
Yep. The thing was, as long as you were in midair in Titanfall, because of the way the engine worked, it did not kill your inertia. So you would actually keep the inertia, only it would then start going the opposite direction. You could do some very, very funky 180 slingshotting. That made it impossible to track certain players. Now,
The game genre almost changes when hidden mechanics like that are let loose.
Yeah.
Because they created the maps, the modes, the everything around a certain feel, and now when that speed feeling is twice as fast, it might warrant the maps being twice as big for future updates. They might embrace it, but they also might nerf it.
Alright, because here's an interesting one. One thing that I see you abuse a lot is like turn back zones. Or
Map out of bounds.
Yeah,
yes.
any kind of out of bounds and turn back zones. The moment I see those, I'm just like, Jesus fuck, okay. this guy knows exactly the timing he needs to get in there, then get back out without getting, well, instantly stuffed. It's just like, okay, you can be underneath this particular platform, underneath this capture point. Okay, sure. What can you do with it? Wait for someone to come up? Okay, alright, sure. Ridiculous area that they didn't expect you to peek from.
Off angles are huge in FPS games.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the other one I see you do is just anytime I see you hanging off a different wall, just using stasis. I'm just like, this guy has got a ridiculously high angle because he just used his stasis grenade or his glacier grenade on a wall instead. Okay. Jesus Christ.
The movement in Destiny where you can like float out a super and they have like a melee based build, but you're floating off the map or out of bounds or something. The only way they can get the kill is chasing, and they're not going to do that. So if you waste enough of their time, eventually they're like, well, I want to get something with my super. Let me go find someone else. Sort of something I had to learn by necessity, because if I didn't, I would just be farmed by supers all game because I would get targeted by them.
Oh, yeah. The content creator part of getting
glacier angles, the out of bounds, that all came from having to have some sort of answer to running away from a super. And eventually those same out of bounds got repurposed for just general gunfights.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, like, in that case, like, what was the worst super to run away from then?
Anything that has a ranged attack, I lose.
Huh.
But out of the melee ones, I think Behemoth was the scariest, because not only could they chase you out of bounds, they could make it back in.
Fair enough. Yeah, they could just punch, come back.
The other one was Arc Strider, but only good players, because if they were on Fluxnade, doesn't matter if you're out of bounds, you could still get stuck.
Oh, yeah. I remember that period of time where you tried optimizing the hell out of Fluxnade and treating it like a dart instead. It's just like, yep, at this range.
Yeah, you know what killed that was
fire.
Overshield eating the Fluxnade and them surviving.
Oh.
If Overshield's part of the meta, I just can't run Fluxnade.
Wait, that's actually what killed it? Huh.
I mean, yeah, it might be different now with Arc 3.0, but in 2.0, when Void got its 3.0, but Arc was stuck in 3.0 or 2.0, I just couldn't use Fluxes because the Overshields would tank it.
Huh, interesting. You did mention there are empowered grenades now, because I haven't really touched Arc 3.0 too much, honestly. Because
with the contingency, they have to be near a teammate for the grenade to power up.
Oh, huh, okay. That's still...
Unless you're talking about the Titan aspect. The Titan aspect gives like storm grenades, extra duration, and pierce.
Okay.
Gives flashbangs an instant flash on landing.
Huh, okay. Because for me, as a Warlock player, I just look at 3.0, I'm just like, this doesn't actually feel that great. I'll be honest. I'm just like
3.0 hurt a lot, but it also helped a lot. It's different.
Because yeah, to be fair, I was one of those assholes which was abusing mid-tree and just going like, yeah, I have my Chaos Reach, alright. Time to laser these people and time to abuse the rest of all of this kit. Why not? It was one of the more brain dead ways you could play the game.
What I liked about 2.0 and the skill trees was it was much more readable. Now I don't know what to expect when I see an ability because I don't know how they have it kitted.
Yeah, I can say that. Because yeah, I saw like the sheer variety of builds that a Solar Hunter could pull off, for example, and I was like, okay, that's a lot of different knives they could be running. Okay, what knife is getting thrown at me?
Exactly. I mean, you said Chaos Reach, right?
Yeah.
If I knew they were on that super, and I knew I was weak behind cover, I know what their kit is capable of. I know they can shoot a ball lightning over the cover and take me out. And if I know they're going for it, I have to slide backwards now, like type situation. I don't really get that as much in the 3.0s because I really can't predict what they're going to pick on their trees.
And at most you see what people conform the meta to, but then there's always going to be that one guy, which is just like, okay.
Yeah, the one good player who deviates away from it, it strengthens their build so much.
It's like, okay, what fragment am I going to take that is going to give me a bigger upper hand than any of the others? What's like,
This could be
yeah.
a hot take, but I think the most powerful class that ever existed was Void 2.0 Bottom Tree Hunter.
Bottom Tree Hunter. Oh.
Yeah, the Pathfinder.
Okay. Alright. Specific reasons why?
It had the best invis kit that has ever existed. Players just didn't know how to abuse it back then.
Oh, I ran into one guy which abused the living fuck out of that. And
if you combined it with off angles and like really coordinated team pushes and fake smokes, I think it's unbeatable. The thing is, no one optimized it at the time.
He didn't even need to do that. So this guy, I forget his exact name, but he was the first time I ran into someone that had mastered bow swapping, pretty much. Completely mastered it. He would play every off angle. He would go invis on those off angles. And the moment we were exposed in any way possible, he would finish us off instantly. And then he would go invis again, find the next person, do the same thing. Go invis again, loop it again, do the same thing. Honestly, he probably could have tried pulling off the same thing with a sniper rifle, and it probably wouldn't have made that big a difference. But no, he went out of his way to do it with bow swapping. And this was in trials. This was in a trials weekend at like, what was it, Widow's Court or something? Yeah, Widow's Court. Mm-hmm. So no matter what angle we tried to pick, he had the advantage. And he knew that every single time. So no matter how hard we tried, we would keep running into him. We'd be on like, what, 3 or 4 wins on a card. And we'd be like, okay, sure. Maybe we can win this next one. Nope. Instantly crushes it. All right, mercied. All right, let's go back in. We match straight back into the guy and we're like, oh. All right, we know that if we take this guy out at least, he's playing as a solo.
Yeah, that adds up.
We know that if we can take this guy out, the rest of the team will crumble apart, right? So we focused all our attention on that one guy. We shut him down at the cost of losing 2 of us. So we realized, oh wait, this isn't worth it. We're just going to lose the match anyway. This one legend of a bastard was the one guy that I did see absolutely abused that kit. So yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
The craziest part about that kit is it boosted your base stats. So if you built a team around min-maxing that, you could get some crazy splits that no one expects. Like a macro economy, they would not expect everybody to have nades up so often, for example.
Oh, fair enough. All right. So this one's going to be an interesting one to ask. So regarding objective-based game modes, to what extent do you think people, need an objective?
The higher the skill level, the more the objective is needed.
Okay. All right. In which case, let's see. What kind of objective would you throw into trials then, if you could throw any objective at all besides elimination?
So this is a hard one to answer because you can always be taken out of context and voice without people paying attention to what the meta was at the time of saying that.
Okay.
So if I said they need a zone in a month from now, that might not look like a good solution because we don't know where the sandbox is going. If the sandbox goes into anti-zoning tools, bubbles, fast supers, a zone doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
So the answer completely depends on where the sandbox is at the time. If it's a capture the zone type of thing and we have too many powerful zoning tools or way too good defensive supers, that is now the meta because the objective is the meta.
Okay.
So if the objective is not the correct one, it creates an artificial meta.
All right. I can see that. So the meta would literally just shift. To adjust to the new. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at a simpler. Let's go simplest to more complex. Simple, just have a higher score. So if I'm playing free for all and I have a higher score, the objective is don't let me get to 20 / I need to get to 20 first.
Okay.
Let's say I'm at 17.
All right.
So I know when I'm at 17, everyone is going to super me because the only way they have a chance at winning is to put me in the scoreboard so they have more time to catch up. Or put me in the death screen, I mean.
Yeah.
So they have more time to catch up. That's the simplest.
Yep.
Next would be a kill confirm game mode.
Ah.
That changes the meta to be artificial to close quarter options, because if you want to secure your kill, you have to be close enough to do so.
Yeah.
And then we have the control point multipliers. That's one where it maybe could create an artificial meta, but it's kind of fair. Then we have point bleed, like Battlefield, the ticket bleed, where it starts to trend more towards the defensive styles again. Then we have bomb defusal, one bomb, multi-bomb, oddball, king of the hill, etc. There's a lot of different objective modes.
Yeah.
They all create their own artificial meta depending on that compared to Slayer.
Yep. But what I'm kind of surprised
Rift was a cool addition.
Yeah. Go on.
They had to do a couple iterations of Rift before I thought it was playable. I don't know what the right answer is right now, because I don't know what their future plans for the sandbox is.
Okay. That's pretty much.
But I do know that there has to be a reason to move. It could be something as simple as a power ammo crate.
Okay. So it needs to be pretty much some kind of vector that a player needs to follow, or just some kind of some reason to act, essentially.
If the win condition is get kill don't die, it becomes super passive at the high end.
Yeah. And that's
like
a
it could be a
playlist,
respawn game mode, right?
Yeah.
And you might see the scoreline be first to 50, but the game end where both teams haven't even crossed 10 kills.
Wow. Yeah.
Because you need an objective to promote movement.
Okay. Right, what about, say, like, currently in Destiny, the competitive playlist is the survival playlist, or survival game mode. Would you consider that an effective way of doing competitive Destiny in any stretch?
Well, it does create an objective. The objective is, if they have more lives than you, you have to push.
Yeah, okay.
So some people will call this like a scummy strat or cheese strat. Is when you have more lives than the opposing team, walk backwards from mid-map into your own spawn and set up a defensive perimeter type thing. And the thing is, the opposing team losing would call you a camper in that situation, despite you playing the objective, the clock.
Yeah.
It's up to them to push forward. You've already won your mid control.
Yeah, you've done.
You won the lives.
Yeah, you've done what you needed to do. Now you
if
just
the
need to hold
lives
on to
didn't
it,
exist,
yeah.
what's stopping the opposing team from sitting in the spawn at the start? So it's the same thing.
Fair enough. And then when it's equalized,
but
it's
in
just
season
like,
19,
yeah.
they're doing a competitive rework, and I don't know if survival is going to be part of it. So curious to see.
Let's see. So, in your opinion, then, what do you think Destiny needs to be a competitive game then?
A curated sandbox.
Oh.
AKA like a limiter on what is allowed to be used.
Okay. So, kind of like a ban list then, in that case.
Yes, a ban list in a specific playlist. I know that Bungie is really about wanting your PvE character to feel the same in PvP and vice versa, but they've already strayed away from that. They might as well flip the switch entirely and curate the experience to be competitive in the respective places.
Because I think personally, for the biggest wake-up call I had was when going into PvP was just, oh wait, running, what was it? At the time, running Middle Tree Gunslinger was not viable in PvP by a long shot. At the time when I tried that out, and I was like, huh. So
loot accessibility is also a thing.
Yeah,
Like, for example, the best shotgun in the game is Found Verdict Adept.
Yeah.
To get that could take hundreds of hours. And it's for a slight advantage with the shotgun. A curated sandbox, curated playlist would take that away. It would say, no, you don't use Found Verdict here. You just get this shotgun and that is your only shotgun. Or that is one of a selectable amount of shotguns. You have to choose between the pros and cons of all the available ones. The benefit is, if it's a brand new player coming into Destiny, they're already kitted out and ready to play PvP.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, I think that's a good thing for raising the population.
Okay. Have you ever played Guild Wars 2 before?
I have not.
They do this exact system. For their PvP, when you come in, the only thing that you can choose for PvP is your skills, so your build, essentially. and then the stats that the equipments give. So it's like, they're very specific stat arrangements. Like it'll be say, oh, this is a blah 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 bow of the Viper. Viper simply means that, oh, okay, you get extra damage over time, you get extra healing, and you get extra power, I think it was. And that was it. You would then just choose different substats for each of your pieces of equipment to make the rest of your build. And then different little pieces of gear. And that was it. It was like a kind of, wasn't necessarily like, you know, Call of Duty's pick 10, pick 13. It was more so like pick 20, pick 30 kind of affair. But that's the thing. Everyone had access to roughly the same options. Pretty much the same options outside of, well, being different classes. But yeah.
Pick 10 system in Destiny across all of the build crafting would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Like,
if they could rope that into a competitive system, that would be like the dream.
Like the thing is, for Destiny, I could probably see it as, let's say, building a Destiny character at times feels like it gets as complicated as building a D&D character at this point.
Yeah, it is.
At like a level 1 or level 3 D&D character, I would say. That's about the
I started an
complexity.
account from scratch. I'll give you the exact number.
Yeah, go on.
So started an account from scratch. I took an optimized route, but I went about it casually. I did not tilt the chair forward ever during that route. The number is 100 hours plus or minus 20 to have a PvP competent account to the point where you can't make an excuse for misplaying. You have the best in slots.
Oh, okay. So what was the best in slot at the time then?
At the time, you wanted to have a lot of hot swaps ready. So you wanted Hawkmoon, No Time to Explain, Teraba, Dead Man's Tale, a sniper rifle, and a good shotgun.
Okay. Not a bad list,
I think that's
actually.
the starter pack.
That's actually
as
not a
far
bad
as
starter pack. Alright.
The exotic armors, on Hunter, you wanted an invisibility swap. On Warlock, you wanted a Dawnblade and Shadebinder build.
Okay.
On Titan, you wanted a Sentinel build.
Oh. Alright. I can say that.
So that's like my 100-hour meta right there.
100 hours to get all of that, and that's with all the relevant armor stats and everything as well?
Yes.
Shit. Alright. 100 hours to be PvP viable.
I think compared to other MMOs, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, no,
but
that's
the issue
not
is
bad, but
no new player knows that optimized path. That is one of Destiny's biggest problems, is the new player experience.
The other problem is a lot of people...
It's getting someone to understand what is valuable for their time.
Yeah. Like, the other thing is not many people realize that this is on the scale of grinding as an MMO, is the thing. Like, the grind here, the odds of getting certain god rolls, I'm going to say, is harder than winning big at the casino.
It is.
Like the thing is, at the casino, when I deal my game, I see people win 55 to 1 odds every single day. And then I see 100 to 1 odds maybe once every 3-4 weeks, maybe. Something like that. So it's like when 4 of a kind pops out, and it's like, okay, I gotta pay you 100 to 1 now. Then on top of that, it's like the odds of someone actually betting on that. So the odds of someone betting on 100 to 1 and winning it, I see that maybe once a month. When I pay that out, that's like handing someone a god roll in Destiny, pretty much.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, I am no stranger to RNG, and Destiny's probably got among the worst.
And they just added this beautiful crafting system too.
Yeah.
And this is, again, intrinsic versus extrinsic, casual versus hardcore, all these debates.
Yeah.
There are people who like this crafting system and people who don't. I'm on team I like it because it gets me back into PvP faster.
Yeah. Like, for me, I wish that it wasn't a month-long investment for certain things. I wish it was just like, oh, yeah, you go in, you do it, you get it, done, level the damn weapon now. But it feels like there are several unnecessary steps in terms of time sinking, but that's what you get, I guess.
I do have to point out one fatal flaw of the crafting system, it's that they offered the ability to have enhanced perks on only crafted weapons.
Oh, yeah.
Which killed the value of random drops.
Yeah.
Instead of making it be a stopgap to bad RNG.
Yeah.
and now becomes the best in slot.
Yep. I think that was one of the things that when I was making a bow specifically for bow swapping, I was like, okay, I want ensemble, I want something else in the final column, okay. Oh, there are enhanced versions of these perks. Fuck. Okay, I need to go farm these out now. Great. Good job, Bungie. Good job, Bungie. You made it so that I can't. It
has helped my vault space. Because now that I know it's craftable, I'll craft it when I need it.
Huh. One fellow in chat saying that it killed the value of adepts.
It did kill the value of adepts, absolutely.
Huh.
Because enhanced perks a lot of times are better than adept mods.
Jeez. Alright. Yeah, actually, I can say that, because some of them are either straight out improved versions of the mods that exist, or just, yeah.
I could think of maybe like 3 or 4 adept weapons that are worth grinding for. Almost every other case, a crafted is better than an adept counterpart.
Oh, what are the 3 or 4 then?
So if you look at submachine guns,
Uh-huh.
the submission one from the Vow of the Disciple raid is probably best in slot because the adept range mod, adding that 10 range and the way range is calculated on SMGs, makes a huge difference.
Uh-huh.
I think that is better than the enhanced perks on submission.
Okay.
Another one in the future might be Igneous Hammer for similar reasons.
Ah. God freaking damn it.
Maybe an adept machine gun again for the range mod, or the adept backup mag to get more ammo per power pool.
Alright. Okay.
And then adepts fusion rifles because of the charge time masterwork.
Alright, I do have to ask while I've got the question just in chat. How much did the zoom adjustments actually mess with things when it came to SMGs?
They got a lot closer, but range still matters. The thing is, Bungie's very deliberate about the stat totals that they give guns.
Uh-huh.
But they're also very bad about FOMO and taking things out of a loot pool. An example is escape velocity versus submission. Escape velocity you get from Dares of Eternity.
Okay.
Submission you get from Vow of the Disciple.
Uh-huh.
If you get a max range escape velocity, it has 16 zoom. But the max range stat isn't that high. Submission is 15 zoom, one lower. But it can get almost a max range bar with the adept. So they end up being pretty similar. And if you're choosing between a similar drop-off, you might as well go the lower zoom.
Huh. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, the other example out there was the multi-mac before it got rotated out.
Yeah, multi-mac also got nerfed to go from 17 or 16 to, I think it's 15 now.
I mean, I still like the gun, but god damn it, does it feel a bit worse for wear? I don't know. There were times where I could make insane shots across a distance I probably should not have gotten. But yeah, that was the multi-mac. Instead, now I just pull out Shayuras every now and then instead, and it's like, yeah, this thing works. This thing also got rotated out of the pool, because of course it did. Another mate of mine ended up getting the god roll almost for Shayuras, and it was just like, bruh, you went flawless exactly once. You got exactly what you needed. God damn it.
Yeah, I love when that happens.
Yeah. I've yet to go flawless. I've just been unlucky in getting to about 6 and then just getting domed to hell and back. But what can you do?
I'm very particular with the Trials playlist. If it's not a good map, I just won't play it.
That's it. I think
because
the map I've had the most success.
It's kind of cool that you can go for loot in Trials, but at the same time, if I'm farming loot, I'm causing 7 other teams or 6 other teams to not get loot, and that feels like shit.
Yeah.
I'd rather them just take the loss penalty out in the grand scheme of things.
I think the main map that I do enjoy in Trials is probably Endless Vale. If it's not Endless Vale, I'm less inclined to actually touch Trials, by far.
For sure.
Oh no, that map feels just right. It's like 3 lanes, different engagement distances. It's pretty much what you need in a shooter. Pretty much. Fairly close to symmetrical. Fairly close. Yeah, for a Slayer type game mode, that's probably what you need. More or less what you need. But yeah. Alright, regarding the question on screen though, so How much... How much more powerful do you think the Guardian has gotten over the last few expansions? Do you think it needs to get toned down? Do you think we're at a point where
It
we're
needs to
too
get
strong?
toned down.
Okay.
It's getting to the point where I'm gonna give you an example of Destiny.
All right.
So this is power creep going too far.
Sure.
Our Guardian got so powerful at one point, they designed an activity where the only way we could die is by knocking us off of the map.
Huh.
We're more powerful than that right now.
Oh, we can come back
To
from
wipe in a
knockoff.
raid encounter, which means intentionally suicide,
Yep.
to restart the encounter,
Uh-huh.
I have to intentionally switch to a rocket launcher to shoot the floor, not let the ads or the boss kill me. That's how bad it's got.
Yeah, I noticed when I was doing, say, crypt security, for instance, and we fucked up, like, the challenge, it was just, oh, we're gonna have to wait a while to die, aren't we? Does anyone have heavy ammo? No? Oh, we are gonna be here for the next 3 minutes.
We started the talk with Gambit earlier. The Gambit AI is way more aggressive than normal PvE. And even then, in Gambit, I still can't die on command.
Oh,
You back?
I think we're alive again. Australian net striking
Okay.
again. I don't even know what's causing it. Because, honestly, I'm smack bang in the middle of the city, where the net connection shouldn't be anywhere near this scuffed, but I guess we had like a thunderstorm recently, so yeah. It is what it is. City can be a bit scuffed.
Understandable.
But yeah. We are at a point where we are just way too powerful. It is very difficult to die, unless you are either like that far under light level, or yeah. Like, okay.
I described it in a video reviewing Kingsfall, where the issue was we have these builds that do everything and they're not difficult to pilot. So that's the extent of power creep. So you don't have to specialize in anything, including defense.
Okay, because yeah, I know.
To be able to survive things you should not be able to survive at that difficulty of content.
Like, defense is literally you slap on 2 mods that cost a point each at most, or a point or 2 points each. And now
Sometimes
you're-
it's just the
yeah.
abilities or teammates too. Like Well of Radiance, it's the ultimate defense in a raid encounter.
And they tried fixing well, but yeah.
The last time we had to get knocked off the map because of Well.
and they made the adjustment to well that it's no longer an overshield and it just regens faster instead. But honestly, I only felt the impact of that once, and that was actually in PvP. That was the only time. Because then at that point, someone just sniped me and I died, and that was it. It was like, okay, you can kill a person in a well now in PvP. But in PvE, it didn't really feel any different. In a well, you still felt invincible. Like, you coupled that with any kind of damage reduction at all, and yeah, you just wouldn't die. Like, I don't know. There are a lot of parts of Destiny where it feels like they're trying a little too hard to go into the MMO side of things. And that is, more often I find, to the detriment than it is to the benefit.
Right. Like I said earlier, they're trying to cater too much to everybody at once instead of making specific spaces for that player to enjoy themselves. AKA difficulty options would be those spaces.
Uh-huh.
Curated gear would also be it.
Uh-huh. Like, the thing is...
There's a lot of solutions. I just think they need to pick a direction and stick with it.
Okay, the question is, how painful would it be to actually introduce an auction house at all into Destiny?
My first thought is security issue.
Security issue. Okay.
So I don't even like humor that discussion that much because all I think about is we had cheaters in PvP. Imagine what they do to an economy.
the scammers plus pumping and dumping. Oh god. Oh, so unless they had,
especially now with how much we've
system.
already had to grind for stuff, it would just be unfair because I have things that are unobtainable, so they would have to fix FOMO first.
Fair enough, fair enough. Because the only way I could have thought of it working was either, let's see, your currency would literally just have to be legendary shards at that point, and that's what you'd be trading in, and then you would need a very secure system. But yeah.
And they'd also have to solve the FOMO too, because otherwise I have a lot of old items that are just priceless.
Yeah.
Because you can't get them anymore.
You try to sell those, you're asking for both the person's kidneys. Pretty much.
Exactly. Puts way too much power in the veteran players.
Oh god. Yeah. Alright, so in that case, the only way of getting around that would have been if they had to do a clean slate all over again, but they are not going to do
Correct.
Destiny free.
I think the crafting system is the medium, but they have to find the right medium.
Yeah. To me, I think the worst part about the crafting system is just getting started with it. And that's about it.
Yeah, I didn't like the Witch Queen part of it either.
Like, for me, it's just like, okay, you have to go out of your way to get 5 red borders. Okay, for certain content, that means you gotta do it for an entire month and a bit. If you're unlucky. If you're lucky, maybe you got the exact weapons that you wanted, and, you know, you've got 2 red borders a week instead, so, you know, 2.5 weeks of raiding. If not, then yeah, you treat it like an MMO, and there are raid lockouts. You can't raid all day, you gotta raid once a week, and that's it. For me, that was personally just the one part about Destiny I couldn't really wrap my head around too much, was just, yeah. Raids are treated exactly the same as any other MMO. Only in Destiny's case, it's a worse loot pool than a majority of MMOs out there. Because majority of MMOs, you clear it with an 8-man raid team, you get 2 pieces of armor, 2 weapons, usually. If not, 2 accessories, etc., for each step of the encounter. But you split that between 8 players, and then you get like tokens that you can just trade in, blah blah blah, and eventually you get all the gear. In Destiny, it's like, okay, you do the raid encounter, you get the gear, maybe it's the exact same gear, maybe you got like 5 Warlock bonds in a row, and you're just like, why the hell did I do this to begin with? Kind of affair. Then you get to the end chest and it's like, okay, now you gotta pay up on the spoils. It's like, okay, sure. You can go spoils farming and whatnot, and then that's how you get your additional raid gear a week. But at the same time, I don't know. It just feels lackluster in terms of reward to go raiding at times. Like, for the casual player, I can only see them raiding like once a week, if they even get their team together, is the thing. Because maybe
it doesn't seem valuable, I'd agree.
like maybe one player in the team is like, okay, I want this piece of gear, you guys kind of want the loot and pinnacles, come along for the raid. That's the general feeling I had for it. And then in comparison, I have a couple of people in my lot which are completing total raid slots to the point where they're, you know when you get that Destiny playtime breakdown and whatnot?
Yeah.
One of them had almost 97% spent in raid and 3% spent in the rest of the content. Yeah, that guy, if we so much as whisper the word raid in his general direction, in his general area, he will pop up. Jesus Christ.
I'm like that for master content at the beginning of the season, but then as the power level goes up, I stop being interested in raids.
Oh.
Because the contest mode scales differently than master mode.
Yeah.
You can get bullied harder in master mode if you're under the power level.
Because the one thing that I find about Grandmaster, pretty much, when it gets to that point, is just the entry requirement. It's just kind of shit. It's just like, okay, you got to religiously...
We were just able to do this last season. Now they flip a switch and we can't do it anymore.
Yep.
Until we get a magical amount of playtime. Yeah, I don't like it either.
Now you got to religiously play the game for X amount of time if you want to access Grandmasters again.
Or in some people's case, they just macro AFK to get the necessary EXP.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. And me, I just don't touch the content. It's like hardcore PvE is just not really my thing. And the way Destiny has it is pretty much like Halo Legendary difficulty. So there's a certain level of trauma when you run into snipers, and they're the equivalent of Jackal snipers.
Yep.
Anyhow. With the amount of mechanics, well, with the amount of power creep that we've had at this point, sometimes that's remediable. It's just that anytime I watch my mates go through GMs, it sounds like a certain level of torture and a lot of invisibility toggling.
For some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
But GMs have gotten a lot better with this power creep as far as like being able to aggressively clear them.
Okay, okay.
You're so survivable once you hit the entry requirement that you should be able to barrel through a lot of the old hard ones.
Fair enough, fair enough. Anyhow, what I find funny is we managed to go over a majority of this PvP talk and whatnot without even mentioning the state of the sandbox a single time. Pretty much. So I may as well just ask it straight up. What are your thoughts on the current sandbox?
I want to dodge the question and say it's too soon because I really haven't had my hands on all the 3.0s.
Okay.
Just been playing my favorite things. We also haven't had anything on the line for people to play hard meta. I've had to go out of my way to scrim
Okay.
to see a snapshot of the meta.
Alright, alright.
Everyone's in the honeymoon period for Arc 3.0, so even in SPMM, I'm not getting opponents deviating from that too much. And then I'm trying out new things in the season as well, maybe weapons and builds and other things that got slight patch notes that I haven't even used my best gear yet either, so I don't know what it looks like.
Like, for me, from a casual returning player, the only biggest thing I noticed was just, why are there so many scout rifles all of a sudden? That's about the only thing I realized. It was just like, wait, every other player I'm running into now is running a scout rifle. What the heck happened in the 3 months I was gone? Because I'm not getting...
The only huge L to me right now is the map weighting giving me disjunction too much.
Oh, yeah.
Which
I did see that
scout
tier list
rifles
video.
much more apparent.
I did see that tier list video. I was like, Jesus Christ, okay. Fair enough for some of those, fair enough for some of those. Some of the other ones, I didn't realize that they got that bad in terms of spawn camping, but... I guess that's what you figure when you do play more Rumble.
Yeah, that was a weird tier list to make, because I had to take into account a lot of different modes.
Yeah.
I tried my best with it, though, to at least explain the POV. It's like, Rumble in this game mode is unplayable, so it gets knocked down a tier type energy.
Oh, okay. But yeah, when it came to current sandbox stuff or just new 3.0 stuff, I just saw that one video you made on Amplified and like, right, this guy said he was going to release this.
I don't like the
no
Arc 3.0 stuff, like not in concept, not in execution, but some of it is undeniably strong, so I have to use it.
Like, the main one that I've just been told about is the Warlock slide melee, and that's about it.
Funny, a lot of people tried that in trials this last weekend, but I was playing Dawnblade, so I just float away and they would never hit it.
Wow. Yeah, that would
But
do
if
it.
somebody wasn't a Dawnblade main, they would be thinking it's the craziest ability. So I think it's just too soon to tell.
No,
We're not going to see if a rock, paper, scissors emerges if everybody's using rock against each other right now.
Yeah. No, it's like fighting game matters, honestly. Like, okay, this is probably a weird out there example of this, but okay. Blaze Blue, Chrono Phantasma. When that first released, strongest characters were considered, I think it was Hakuman and Jin. They both sat very comfortably in the S tier for, let's see, I think it was like over a year, maybe 2 years even. And then they did Chrono Phantasma 2.0. Thing was, by then, players had learnt hard counter them really badly to the point where both of them had fallen significantly from grace. I think one of them even dropped down to C tier at that point because it was like, it was like, okay, we've learnt and memorized this character's entire moveset. We know what we can punish. And as it turns out, things that people thought were positive on block were actually negative on block. And I was like, oh wait, oh, so you're telling me I can actually exploit the living hell out of this and not actually have to corner cap the entire time? Well then, this changes everything. The unfortunate part where
Pretty much the same situation in Destiny right now.
Yeah, because when they nerfed shotguns, then people started thinking, you know what? SMGs have a place in the meta again. Oh, we can start using SMGs. But then fusion rifles came knocking on the door, and it was like, oh, fusion rifles exist. Sorry, we forgot about you until you just shot in. Huh. God. Yes, I am going to be one of those cunts that is going to tout around saying that main ingredient was a bloody curse. But anyhow. There have been worse curses.
I don't like fusions as a special weapon. They're a primary replacement.
I don't know, like, fusions, I've tried getting used to them. I never can. It's just like, the only one I've ever seen success with is the freaking meme, and that's just Telesto. Like, that is
That is a special weapon to me. That creates a special circumstance. A regular fusion rifle is not special to me. It's a primary replacement. Every situation where I think I should shoot him with the primary, fusion's just better.
Oh. Fair enough,
I guess I could say snipers like that to an extent, but I also dislike those.
Okay.
Shotgun out of the three is the special weapon, because you are only allowed to use that point blank. That's not a primary.
Fair enough. Anyhow, there's one part of Destiny which is very, very rarely explored, I'll be honest. What does the actual competitive scene look like? Like the people that actually go ahead, make those ban lists, do scrims and everything.
Invested in it, they think it's bigger than it actually is, but it's a speck, a microscopic speck in Destiny.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, it's very, very rarely mentioned, explored. People don't even know it exists. So
now, even though it is a speck, that does not mean that the players there are not good. If they switch games, they could be top players in their respective game. I guarantee it.
Okay. All right.
But this being said, they play such a different game from the rest of us that it's not comparable.
Oh, because like
with the rule sets that trim down the fat of Destiny 2.
Because my impression of Destiny is I run around, I monkey, and I somehow get kills. And that's my impression of Destiny, because it plays pretty much like Call of Duty, but by other means, essentially. Like by increasingly complicated means. That's just my definition of like Destiny PvP. What you're making it out to sound to be, at least competitive-wise, it sounds like they're trying to form like Counter-Strike or Rainbow Six almost, is the thing.
The Destiny competitive scene has a lot of different rule sets depending on which tournaments you play.
Okay.
And that rule set dictates the meta strategies. And those meta strategies don't exactly translate well to the rest of Destiny 2.
Alright.
Obviously the FPS fundamentals do, but I just mean like the playstyle and loadouts.
Oh yeah. Could imagine.
So if you try to hand cannon shotgun your way through a team using bows and fusion rifles, you might struggle even if you are the better team.
Huh.
There's a lot of gentlemen's agreements that I don't really abuse out in the wild in Destiny 2 because it kills the enjoyment of the game for me because the devs haven't balanced it. An example again is switching from using all your linear fusion ammo to a bow when you're empty.
Okay.
You could get much crazier hot swaps if you wanted to. And if there's two equally skilled teams, the game is really hard to read and play at that point. It's really hard to have a skill gap when everything is easy to use. So that is why they have a competitive rule set. It's to keep a healthy skill gap in there, even if they have to do it themselves.
Okay. So say the Destiny competitive rework comes along and they introduce a full drafting system. Would you be okay with that? So say, okay, ban the use of this and that, and you take turns banning certain things that the players have, and then you choose a map, ban another map, and then you play a selection of maps. Would you be okay with that kind of system for competitive?
I would be okay with that if my friend Glow experimented with a similar rule set and it played okay. I'd be okay with that, but it sounds like a lot of work. They would have to have a good infrastructure of skill-based matchmaking for sure, or rank.
Yeah.
Because
pretty
no
much.
one wants to randomly matchmake into my practice team and have to go through the motions of a long ass series.
Oh boy. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Let's see. Alright. If the only reward for playing competitive was just getting a rank number, do you think that would be enough?
That's enough.
Okay. Fair enough.
I can expand on that by saying the teams that want to be there are going to be there, even if it's only 4 teams.
Okay. Fair enough then, fair enough. Alright, I may as well land on the biggest one for PvP. Do you think skill-based matchmaking was worth it?
Yes, but it had to be implemented correctly. We needed a rank mode to contrast it.
Okay.
We need a party playlist to contrast it.
Uh-huh.
Making the most popular playlist pure SBMM and strict SBMM at the time was a big misstep, I think.
That's, yeah, the one thing I noticed.
I do think there should be outlier protection. I should not have new players in my lobbies. But I also shouldn't be playing people across the world with 5-minute queues on laggy, unplayable matches.
Oh, yeah. That was one thing I did run into when matchmaking. At one point, it was just like, oh god, I'm playing against North Americans. Oh god.
Yeah, I started noticing Australian friends I was matching into.
It's just like, okay, like, if you're matching as far as like maybe 150 ping in Destiny, okay, you know what, fair. That's fine. You do what you can. You shotgun someone, you're probably going to trade. If you start matching 200 plus ping, that's just absolute misery. There's just people starting to teleport around. And because of the speed of the movement that you can actually get up to, you will literally see people rubber banding around. But yeah. Fair enough then, fair enough. Alright, so I may as well just throw the culmination up. What does Destiny 2 need the most at the moment then?
A direction. And consistency with sticking to that direction. Okay. I said that they could create pockets of activities that are curated for a certain type of player, rather than making every activity made for everybody, which in turn makes it for nobody.
Alright.
I hope that makes sense the way I just conveyed it.
Okay, fair enough. Alright, so if there was just one ultimate goal, pretty much, and that everything that you did funneled in towards that goal, would that be appropriate?
Can you reword that?
So, imagine that there is one final activity that you need to do that just culminates everything that you've done into that one activity. You have to, so say it's one long quest just for some kind of cosmetic or achievement, just a blip saying that you've done it, pretty much.
Okay.
And it is at the difficulty of, say, the pinnacle quests.
Okay.
And it encompasses all 3 of the playlists, and you need to do all 3 of those just to unlock this. Would that be a kind of direction to take then? Would that just be like, you need mastery over PvE, so you need to be able to do GMs, you need to be able to go flawless in trials.
I think that's Gambit.
Gambit was going to be the difficult part of this particular question, because it's just like, Gambit covers
both.
No,
I think Gambit's the answer to that question, now that I think I understand what you're asking.
Yeah, because
Gambit did have that full understanding of the whole game.
Because yeah, that's
it's just they needed to tweak Gambit itself.
Because that's the thing. I've only seen this performed properly once in terms of culmination of everything you've done. And that wasn't even in a real game. That was in a fucking fictional series. But that's the thing. This fictional series, if they ever tried making a proper game out of it, they would probably make something very, very similar to Destiny. Except you would be spicing in Path of Exile and a bit of PSO, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever heard of the series King's Avatar?
I have not.
Go watch it or give it a read. It is probably everything you've ever wanted in terms of a game.
Make a note of it.
It is probably the best written esports related piece of media I've ever seen. It did, however, it did come out of China though, so there are some bits of translation here and there that may be a bit funky.
Okay.
The gist of it is everything that is done in that game, everything you do culminates into becoming a PvP god.
Okay.
You do everything in PvE to get your gear. You formulate strategies with your teams, you run dungeons, you run everything else. All of it is just so you can stand at the top on top of giants, essentially. Because to even quote unquote get past into the end game, you actually need to be good at PvP in that game, which is kind of funny. Because it's just like, oh, you've been doing levels 1 to 75, all doing PvE content? Oh wait, your end game is now gated by PvP. Did you get good at PvP at some point? That's your
how
problem
PvE
now.
players felt when Reed's Regret was up for grabs.
Oh,
It's a linear fusion.
Yeah. Because I've only gotten one Reed's Regret, and it's kind of shit. It's like an Adasia surplus roll or something like that. Some weird combination that's kind of useless. But it's still a Reed's Regret. It's the same with a couple of my Igneous Hammers lying around, or Shayora's Rafts, but anyway. That's the thing though. At the point of having the free playlists, why make it that you should only dip a couple of toes into each of them? Why shouldn't you full send it on all three? Like, why not give a reason to go all in, is the thing. Because like...
The reason is intrinsic to me, because I've done it. It's less content creator and more like, I'm not good at this, I want to be good at this. So I tried it until I was, and then there was no more content.
Yeah, like, personally, I only touch PvP.
PvP is the only replayable one, because it adapts.
Yeah, like...
Even Gambit is solved in a regard, because it's as fast as you're mobbing, it's a flawed mode.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I pretty much touch... Let's see. I touch Strikes just to get the Pinnacle. I touch Gambit just to get the Pinnacle. And then I play Control for the rest of the week. That's how I play Destiny. Because the other two playlists just don't interest me nearly as much as they used to.
So I have not soloed a dungeon, but that's not because I can't. It's because the harder content than the solo dungeon also has an interest in me. So what is the easier content going to do for me? Nothing. So I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to spend my time in PvP.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's the thing I find though. It's like, I don't know, there should be a reason, a good reason for touching all of the playlists. Like,
I mean, if they want to make a cosmetic or something that acknowledges that, I'm sure somebody would grind for it.
Yeah. But the thing is, like...
But to me, it's not worth being a well-rounded PvE, PvP Gambit player for a cosmetic. It's worth it if all three of those are interesting. If PvE is not interesting, I don't care to mark a little checkbox to say that I played PvE.
Fair enough. So it comes down to the intrinsic motivation at the end. Because extrinsically, could actually be very simple, honestly. It could just be like you spread certain gear onto certain places and that's it. Like, it's literally just, oh yeah, imagine if you could only get weapons from Strikes, armors from Crucible, and whatever, and mods from Gambit. And that'd force people to play all three of them if they really wanted to optimize their shit. But no, that would piss off the entire community, because then it'd be like, oh, I wanted guns, I have to play Strikes? Oh, well, fuck off, I don't want to play Strikes. And then, oh, I wanted armor, I have to play PvP now? Oh, fuck off. The community, at times feels like they expect everything handed on a silver platter when it comes to just being rewarded for stuff. Because at the end of the day, Destiny has the title of, well, the looter shooter. That's the unfortunate part. We are the MMO that is a looter shooter. So what do people want? It always boils down to the loot. It is very rarely about the skill. It is very rarely about getting up there, so to speak. It is, once you've done it, you've done it. So the problem right now is, to people, it's the destination and not the journey. Because I can't really say in earnest that Destiny has a very good progression. If anything, you come in as a new player, you don't really get that point where you go from weak ass to strong, apart from like leveling up your own skill. Like there is a very weird kind of foggy spot where it's like you're either good or you're shit, and that's it. You go into the valley and you're supposed to come back out the other side. And that's Destiny. Because there's not a very good... I'd say probably up until Witch Queen, I would say. Witch Queen, you get the campaign at least. So you know that, oh yeah, play the campaign. Play the campaign, you reach the appropriate level of power to do the rest of the activities. But then once you get to that point, it's like, it's aimless. Like, part of the reason I don't personally like logging into Destiny, for example, that often, is I don't have very much motivation to do other shit apart from getting good. Which is why I just play PvP, because I want to get good at the PvP. The other stuff is like, okay, so there's a good gun that came out over here, but I like my current guns already, so I don't need to touch it. Or, okay, this might give me a competitive edge of like 2 or 3%, but I'm nowhere near sitting at that level.
I'm motivated to upgrade my builds to answer a question to a problem type thing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if the arc melee is hitting pretty hard, then I want to optimize my Dawn Blade. If I keep getting a scout rifle map, well, now I want a scout rifle build.
Okay. In that case...
That type of thing.
In that case, do you think Destiny needs to provide more problems?
No. No. If I could master key and just have all the items unlocked, I would enjoy the game more than having to grind for any of them. But I know that would kill the looter shooter point for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Destiny has more problems to a point where I have to spend more time grinding mindlessly than playing PvP, I'm just not playing Destiny.
Okay, okay. Fair enough. That's not a...
Of course, right now I'm kind of in stasis waiting for the honeymoon period to end.
Uh-huh.
Because playing Arc every game is kind of boring when I want people to play what they think is good. Even in SBMM, like I wish my opponents played things that they thought they were good with.
And yeah, I see, like, when I go into PvP, I mainly see Arc running around and, like, I see people kind of just like Amplified, huh? Well, Amplified hasn't really provided many benefits for me personally, so I still play Arc the exact same way I have every time, so yeah, it is what it is. Alright. At this point, we've covered a good chunk of Destiny 2, pretty much, given the retrospective. Alright. Don't think there's too much I can cover on PSO2 at the moment, considering I've dropped out on that game for about a year, anyhow. So, yeah. May as well run up to the last few that we've got then. Alright.
Sounds like a plan.
So, this particular question, the content creators I usually ask give like 3 common answers. You are 100% going to dodge all 3 of the common answers, but anyhow, most job interview like one anyway. What are your goals for the future at this point? What do you want to do?
Short term, I want to find the things that I'm enjoying in Destiny 2, like the favorites, tendencies. As a player, I've grown over the years. Put together builds that exemplify those things, and then do commentaries on them. Okay. Start stacking up my YouTube backlog to free up some time for me to play other games or do more creative things in Destiny.
Okay.
So that's really my short-term goal. Long-term, I don't know. I really don't know. That doesn't scare me though. It's like I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. I'll think about that later. Okay,
so say Destiny's final expansion releases. It's all over. End of service. What then?
Another game.
By then, hopefully something else has popped off, huh? Fair enough.
I mean, at the very worst, I'll just go back to RuneScape. That community is not ready for my content there.
Wait, what the heck would you pump out for RuneScape content then?
A lot of it's been done, but I think that's why it would make doing something creative even more entertaining. The last time I saw something creative that I was like, man, this dude took an idea I wanted to do. He created a bunch of a suicide bot accounts where there are
God.
very specific builds for the retribution prayer or whatever that deals damage whenever you
Oh.
die. And he would purposely set off this bomb of other accounts he logged in to kill
Oh.
somebody in PvP.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
If I say this idea, it could get taken, but they had this game mode called Dead Man mode, which is like a PvP enabled server.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
There's an island associated with a quest where you cannot bring combat items in, but there's a lot of ways to finesse and smuggle things that you should not have on that island.
Oh.
And the goal would be to maybe have about like 5 friends or so, where our sole goal is to power up one player on that island as soon as possible to be a bottleneck to the entire server progressing.
Oh my
Just
God.
be the fucking champion of the island.
Yes.
And it's not like to be an asshole, it's more like proof of concept. It's like, well, how powerful can we make the character on this island? Like, yeah, real creative.
Oh, it's literally the Black Knight of the Bridge. Oh no.
Yeah.
God. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that one. Jesus. Oh no, like, okay. Yeah, that particular version of RuneScape, the one where it's just PvP server enabled. I think they once ran it as like Darkscape before. That one I actually enjoyed a lot when they released that. That was fun because it was like, yeah, you have one life, you die, it's over. PvP's enabled everywhere. Good luck. You had people fighting in the streets, you had people fighting over gathering zones, and you had the people that just wanted to go out and peacefully mine things. All 3 of those were at complete odds with each other. So yeah.
So routing out those type of creative goals is really fun in games to me. So I would just do that to the next game. I just gave you RuneScape as an example.
Like, for me personally, I occasionally do odd challenge runs here and there. Like, for example, okay, you know what gun game is in any old
Yes.
shooter? Yeah, like, you know, you kill someone with a gun, you progress to the next tier of gun, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Give me a second here. Buddy, I'm on stream at the moment. Okay. Bruh. I'll say. Yeah, don't mind that. That was just my roommate asking me to buy some brownies for some reason. Don't mind it. Sydney's an interesting place. Anyhow. Let's see. So, the odd ideas that I've run before is... Let's see. So, a game like Hunt Showdown. You have a loadout
My
that you
friend
take
Fallout
in.
wants me to play that so bad.
Like, you take in a loadout of 2 guns, pretty much, and whatever consumables, spare tools, and whatever that you want. Idea is you kill a boss, you extract with the boss's bounty, done. Only problem is in between you and the bounty extraction is probably about 10 other players who want to do the exact same thing. What do? They start killing each other, because there's only 2 bounties from that boss. Plain and simple. Now, imagine if you ignore half the rules of the game and decide, okay, let's turn Hunt into a gun game. So I drafted out a list, sent it to a friend, was like, okay, here's the Hunt gun game. Every time we go in, we have to kill another player to progress upwards in this tree. We can progress a maximum of 2 weapons at a time, because we can only take 2 in at a time, unless the player has the weapon we need that's next in the tree. And that's what we did.
I see, okay.
So we didn't get through like every single variation on every weapon, because there's like some weapons have like 5 or 7 different variants on them. We got through the main version of each weapon. But we got all the way to the end, and it was just like, why did we do this? It was fun, but why the hell did we do this? But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I particularly enjoy when it comes to like doing things outside of the box for a game, because it's like, no one else had tried that at that point. It was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do a gun game. And one of the most hype moments we had was we ran in, got the 2 kills we needed with a weapon, realized that there was a 3rd guy over there holding the exact weapon we needed for the next one. So we rushed him down, killed him, took his weapon, and went, fuck it, alright, we're landing another kill with this one. And we sweeped it with 3 kills. Progressed 3 columns up. Apart from that, the next dumb one I was going to do was in Escape from Tarkov. And that was just going to be, yes. But everyone in Tarkov just wants to escape with like better loot and better guns and all that stuff. What if I just want to go in and eat everything that Tarkov has in terms of food and drink items?
Oh, that does sound funny.
A friend of mine was just like, okay, you're not very good at this game, you're pretty new to this game, I'm going to teach you exactly what you need to do this. So he spent like 3 or 4 hours dragging me through the basics and was like, okay, you need to go to this one shop in Interchange that's going to have all of the food items. Please memorize this route. And please memorize the route back out, or you are going to die. So yeah, that one's gonna be a time. Like, everyone else is gonna be busy trying to kill each other for better loot. Me, I'm gonna beeline it to the shopping market, just to the stall, raid the shelves, hide in a corner, and start eating food. It is literally just gonna be one fat fuck in a corner, trying not to die, while trying to consume everything the game has to offer at some point or another. So yeah, that's gonna be a time. That's gonna be a time. But speaking of which, this one's kind of a two-parter. Recommend some food. Any food whatsoever.
Alright, I'm gonna go with pho. I think because I have not had a phenomenal ramen experience. I have not had 5-star Michelin chef ramen ever, or some Japanese stall. I think pho is better than ramen, at least what I can get in South Florida.
Okay, I can say that. Have you ever had a homemade one before?
I don't think I have, but I would imagine some of these restaurants keep it pretty close to authentic.
Okay, I'll say homemade usually makes a difference. So if at any chance you get to try a homemade pho, give it a shot.
Will do. I won't even have to think twice on that. Like, absolutely.
Because yeah,
if there's a food that like replenishes my soul, it is that.
Because yeah, as a Vietnamese fella, I've been living off of that damn stuff for most of my life, here and there. Just like, oh yeah, family's cooking pho for the weekend. Shit, alright, we got food for the next 3 days. You can have it as breakfast, lunch, and dinner for whatever reason. The one time I tried cooking it on my own, though, was a special kind of disaster because we used way too many beef bones to the relative amount of broth that we were trying to make. Yeah. It is an 8-hour-long process of cooking, which involves scooping off a shit ton of just scum off the top. Because holy hell.
Right, okay.
Holy hell. Like, you wouldn't think that, like, a couple of chunks of beef bones are going to produce that much fat. No, God no. It produces a shit ton of flavor in combination with the spices and the stuff you need to roast, but then after that, the amount of effort you need to put in is just like, oh God. I'm spending 8 hours to make one noodle dish. Ooh, I better be making this in a pretty big bulk. Yeah, I couldn't get rid of the smell for like the next 3 or 4 days, pretty much.
A good problem to have. No.
As for ramen, yeah, I've been weaned off of ramen slowly as well, honestly. There's like one good place in Sydney that produces like really authentic stuff. That's about it. If for whatever reason you find yourself in the land down under, yeah, I'll point you in that direction. Go to that particular place, have fun. Apart from that, most places here kind of suck.
That's what I'm most excited about a Japan visit for, is just to like to know what good ramen might taste like, so I can make that comparison finally. Everyone is always hyping it up. I need to know.
Because yeah, the best one I've had is just a very ridiculously thick broth. It's the kind that if you were to leave it for about 30 seconds, it would actually start forming a skin on top of it already. Ridiculous stuff. Very ridiculous stuff. Anyhow. Second part of this question is very simple. It's just recommend a drink. Any drink whatsoever.
Alcoholic, non-alcoholic?
Well, we're in a bar setting right now, so take your pick.
Let's go alcoholic then. Alright, I'll go with bourbon whiskey.
Okay. Just bourbon whiskey.
And if you want me to get specific, yesterday I drank Old Forester 1920. Pretty good stuff.
Okay. Fair enough. When it comes to whiskey, I normally keep it very simple because I'm the fella that just mixes drinks instead, usually. So personally, whiskey, I just go for good old Maker's Mark, usually. Just simple bourbon.
Some good stuff.
Yeah. Very simple bourbon, very easy to mix into things, because from there, it's just the weirdest drink I probably mix, and probably my favorite is still just going to be the Suffering Bastard. All that requires is a shot of London Dry Gin, shot of whiskey, shot of lime juice, 2 dashes Angostura bitters, shake that all together, pour it out, top it with ginger ale, and garnish with a mint sprig.
I'll have to try that then.
It is a needlessly smooth drink. Smooth enough that I think I passed out on stream one time after having too many of them. I don't remember that particular stream all too well. All I know is, yeah, I think I bumped my head into the mic at one point and saw that half an hour had passed by.
I sometimes do that. When I drink a little bit too much on stream, I magically turn into an Osu player. And I can't ever get the skill back unless I'm drinking.
And just
there's like that right amount for Osu.
Yeah, just gotta click those circles.
I'm like, wow, I didn't know I was this good. I must have practiced a lot while drinking.
Oh god. No man, clicking circles, that was... I've known people that have gone professional for that at some point or another. Whether it be for the original mode or Mania. So I've known a guy which has been top 10 for Mania, at least. Yeah, top 10 for Mania out there before. The guy's washed up, old and decrepit at this point. Not really, he's too many years younger than me, but anyway. For an Osu player, apparently 18 is already too old. 16 is already too old, apparently.
Yeah, dude, your reaction speed's shot. There's no way you can hang.
Yeah. As for the other guys, yeah. There have been a bunch of guys I've known that have participated in like global tournaments. We have lost to very unfortunate countries before.
Alright, I'm gonna see if you agree with this.
Yeah, go on.
Hypothetical situation. An alien being beams down to Earth and demands that we compete in an intergalactic competition of our choice. What are we sending?
What are we sending?
I think we send the Osu team. That's my vote. Across any sport discipline or game that ever existed, that's what I'm sending to the intergalactic competition.
Intergalactic competition.
Good luck, universe, beating us at Osu. Not happening.
You would send Osu. My fault might have been Mahjong, actually.
I could see that, yeah.
Because the thing is... Okay. Hear me out on this. The one competitive scene that I had been highly involved in at one point or another was Riichi Mahjong, so specifically the Japanese rule set for Mahjong.
I sometimes see the old PSO community managers play that.
Yeah, it is a needlessly difficult game to get into, is the thing. To the point where I'm just like, okay, if you know how to play this game, okay, you're already better than 90% of the players, so what happens if you're the top of the top? Oh god. Because, okay. Here's a very simple story. A friend of mine, he simply titled himself ESP 6 Cents before.
Okay.
Now, when the international server for a certain Mahjong client came out, I was looking at the leaderboards one day. I saw his name at the number 1 rank. I was like, wait, I played against this guy last weekend. What the fuck is going on? And as it turns out, he was just that good. He kept the number 1 ranking for about 2 or 3 years. And then before he finally just gave up and was like, the grind trying to get up to Celestial was not worth it. Someone else can take first Celestial. I'm just going to sit at Saint. That's all good. And I'm just like, I look at this guy and I'm just like, I scrim against you. Why the fuck am I the one you're scrimming against? Then I scroll down.
That's a good question, yeah.
I scroll down the player list and I realize, wait, why the fuck is 90% of my locals in this list of the top 100? Hold up. Why do Australians take up the top 4? Like,
oh, okay. I have the same problem in South Florida with Super Smash Melee.
Oh god.
All the local players here are so fucking good because just the average player here is highly ranked. They don't know it.
Yeah, because when it comes to Mahjong, we take a peek around and like, I know this guy. Fuck, I know this guy too. Oh, I played against this guy in a tournament the other week. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. Oh, he's on the national team. Oh. Oh shit. Then once I was like, okay, you know what? Back in radio days, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call up the Mahjong guys. I'm gonna see if any of them are bothered to send a guy over so I can interview them on radio, on national radio. Got one of them. Didn't realize that, oh wait, I just talked to someone that helped manage the championship team. Fuck.
You have that episode?
Let's see.
On hand? That's what I'd love to listen to. But the next game I would send to the international galactic competition or whatever would be Yu-Gi-Oh! Just because it would look hilarious. Played exactly the way Seto Kaiba would.
Oh god. I used to know people that roleplayed the entire thing. As in, like, they would...
I would love to get a VR headset just to do that on stream.
Like, they have... I've seen people that have called out every line from the anime, every card interaction and everything, one-to-one, and have the exact
My favorite
decks.
one, you're a third-rate duelist with a fourth-rate deck, or the part where Seto Kaiba throws a briefcase full of the best cards at somebody. Like, upgrade your pathetic deck and duel me.
Oh god.
I made an alt account on Destiny, and I can kind of do that to people now if it gets bad enough, so I'm ready. Upgrade your pathetic build and duel me. Give them the login to the alt account.
Jesus Christ. For me, like, the competitive experience for me at the height of it was just playing Mahjong for myself. Like, I've seen what the top players are like, I've played against the top players, and I realized that I got there almost by pure luck.
It's a product of environment. If your locals is strong, you will unintentionally be strong.
Because for me, I play almost on pure instinct. I'm just like, okay, I read the discards, I think of what they've got in their hand, I'm just like, this is too hard. I just know that this tile over here in my hand is dangerous if I discard this. I'm not going to discard this.
What's going to be funny is your interaction with good players is going to feel normal, but your interaction with bad players is going to feel shitty.
Oh, okay. So we had two different schools of Mahjong over here. We had the proper by-the-books Mahjong, and we had what we called a Macquarie-style Mahjong. The only way I can put Macquarie-style Mahjong is it was playing so far against the meta that you actually ended up winning for the wrongest of reasons. Because you'd think optimal play is like, you know, you discard a tile that's safe and that will help you earn more points in the long run, or you keep tiles that will help you earn more points, and you form a beautiful hand. That's the whole idea behind Mahjong. What Macquarie style did was the complete opposite. You threw away tiles that would be very dangerous for yourself, and you threw away tiles that would give you more points, only to devalue your hand even further. So what would happen is, you'd hit them with a 1000, and they'd be like, what, that's it? You're only taking 1000 points off of me? You had such risky discards, and that's all you've got to show for it? And it's like, excuse me, what? But everyone else at the table gets completely tilted. Yeah, that's the exact reaction. Everyone gets tilted so fucking hard, they start playing like shit. And it's like, oh wait, I can exploit this now. Gets a very lucky hand, okay. Sumo. Pulls out, okay. That'll be 8,000 from each of you now. Okay, thank you. Everyone stares you down. It's like, what the fuck have you been... Why? Why did you do things this way? Because the thing is, everyone at the higher level expects you to play hyper optimally.
That's what I'm getting at. If you have a strong local scene, playing optimally is inherent. So when you start playing bad players, they feel like something you can't overcome. And it's also funny if you're playing other good players in a different region or something. Yeah. They don't expect you to be that good with that little experience too if you have a good scene.
Yeah, because it was just like we were basically doing weekly scrims against the best of the best without particularly realizing it. The only time that we particularly got humbled was when we went up against like the Melbourne crowd, so the crowd that was further down south, and those guys just killed it even harder than us. Because pretty much the national team was 2 Melbourners, 2 Sydney-siders, myself in reserve at some point because I somehow managed to qualify and just be like, okay, I'm reserve number 2. If 2 of you guys die for whatever reason, I'm your backup.
So I have a similar strategy in Yu-Gi-Oh! My friends are really competitive at Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm going to start going to tourneys just to cheer them on. I'm going to build a meme deck that has some meta strategies, but the only anti-meta strategy in it is it's going to have one singular left leg of Exodia, and I'm just going to hope that some sort of discard effect throws it in the graveyard, and I want my opponents to think for just a second that I have a bona fide Exodia deck. To win with an Exodia deck, you collect all 5 cards, instant win.
Yep.
And I want them to completely rethink their strategy when they see that left leg in the graveyard. It's gonna be beautiful. It's not gonna work most of the time, but the one tourney it does, someone's gonna have a story.
The thing is, anytime you see that kind of weird strategy out there, like a weird kind of tech or something, like just a one-off card in there, you're like, sometimes it's like, this one-off card makes sense. Okay, it's specifically to counter this strategy. Other times you see a one-off card and you're like, who plays this card? Why do they play this card?
Start overthinking everything now.
Okay. So, if we're talking card games, the weirdest situations I've had is when it comes to running Weiss-Schwarz tournaments, basically. My club back in university days, we ran the biggest Weiss-Schwarz tournaments in the Southern Hemisphere. We had an average of 60 to 70 show up every single time. And we ran these seasonally. So we ran a summer, winter, autumn, spring, whatever. And we would run those every year. One time we decided, you know what? Let's throw the format rules out the window and see what happens. So normally you'd construct a deck out of like one anime series or one game series or whatever the heck, and you know, it'd be like a game about board states, pretty much. You would be like, okay, you swing for this amount, you swing for this amount, you try to damage them exact amounts and do the math, blah blah blah. One guy came in. This guy was the champion for about half of the previous tournaments, because he was that good and we all just respected him. He was just like, okay, this guy's a bit of a god. It's going to be really hard going up against this guy. Whatever. What could he possibly come up with for an unlimited format? So no restrictions whatsoever. You just mix a bunch of cards together. What he came up with was, I think it was a turn 1 or turn 2 infinite loop. Theoretically infinite.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha.
So one of the cards simply said, play rock, paper, scissors with your opponent to process said effect. If you kept winning at rock, paper, scissors, you had an infinite loop. So he memed his way through an entire tournament by playing rock, paper, scissors with his opponents until he came out at the top. And when people looked at all of the deck pieces, it was scattered from all over the fucking place, and we're just like, what the fuck is this? Why does this work? Why is this allowed to work?
The craziest part of that strategy is anybody could win with it.
Yeah. And let's see. Alright, so you've been around fighting games before. Have you ever seen Salty Bet before?
I don't think I have.
Okay, Salty Bet is a very weird Twitch stream, essentially, where people bet on fighting game AIs to go up against each other.
Okay, I looked it up now that you mention it. Yes, I know what you were talking about.
Yeah. Every time I see...
Amiibos used to do that too.
Oh god. Every time I see S-ranked stuff on Salty Bet, it's just like, what the fuck, why? Why does this exist? This is just unfair. And then it's going up against something equally unfair. And then, the one time we put Salty Bet up in the club room to about like 20 or 30 people just watching along for whatever reason. Everyone was just that bored at university one time. It was just like, okay, Salty Bet's up on the screen, so what are we getting? Oh, it's an S-rank tournament. Oh, this is going to be a time. The thing that won was literally fighting game AI that, at the start of the match, blocks everything, flips a coin. If it lands heads, it wins the round instantly. If it lands tails, it instantly loses the round. So it coin flipped its way all the way into the finals, and then won the finals, and got into like S+ rank or whatever the heck they had above that.
That's pretty good.
All of us were just looking on in awe, just like, is he gonna win the coin toss? Is he gonna fucking win the coin toss? Come on, come on, come on. Because yeah, salty bet is a time. And honestly, in some ways, it's how I've heard Destiny PvP described to me before. It's just like, how much bullshit can you throw?
It sometimes feels like a coin flip.
Yeah, it's like, it's either a coin flip or how much bullshit can you throw against their bullshit? And see what comes out on top. In the case of some of my mates, literally all of the bullshit possible. Because I watched the guy just send me a clip of how he killed me at the end of a Rumble match, and I was like, wait, you literally just dumped every single thing that you had. Every single ability possible. Goddamn, man. Goddamn. Anyhow. I dragged you away from a live stream. I may as well place you back into a live stream somewhere.
Yes, I'm going to make a very quick video. I'll just tell you what it is. Apparently, Revoker has started to rear its ugly head in trials again. It's still one-hit kills.
Huh?
Yeah, so you can make a build optimizing Revoker and minimizing the amount of extra damage you take.
Buddy. Jesus
So
Christ.
I'm going to quickly make a video on that, then I'll live stream again.
Revoker, huh? That's a name I haven't heard in a while. A very long while.
Right?
Like, I've heard the stories. I've heard what people have done with it. I've been on the receiving end of it before, but not for very long. So it's like, oh.
So I'm gonna make a couple videos on that subject, but the first one is I want to put the idea out there, because it's just gonna get worse in the future, not better. Because in Lightfall, they are going to make it so that everything gets moved up in power level to a new baseline, which means it's going to be closer in power level to the ceiling again.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Wait.
So it's not going to fix itself over time. This is something that Bungie needs to intervene on. So a future episode is going to show like, all right, Revoker is the I want to win loadout. Now what is the light version of this? I think it's Twilight Oath because it gets a similar mulligan roll. I'm excited to explore these.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, I've heard...
It's not an instant win button, but it is super annoying because you can't keep tabs on people's ammo.
And yeah, it's a sniper rifle where it's just like, yes. You thought I only had 2 shots?
Anyway, that's what I'm going to do right now.
Alright, I will just send a raid off. This is just going to go to another VTuber, which originally based their concept off of being an Ahamkara, for whatever reason. I think they have since thrown away that concept as much, but still a dragon. Still a dragon.
Alright.
Anyhow, thanks for the interview. It was about a year later, honestly, but hey.
Well, that's how my schedule is. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyhow, I'll catch you sometime at some point.
Thanks for the interview. See you around. I'll talk to you later.
Yep, see you around.
Thanks to the viewers for calmly listening.